today because I'm having all kinds of weird network issues and I don't know what's going to happen. So welcome to the Game Dev Show. I got Andrew and Yorai here today. We got a couple interesting topics to share and some fun stuff to show. I also have a couple things to give away. We got a JetBrains Rider license for a year and a giveaway another Game Dev Show mug later on in the show. So if you're interested in those, make sure that you hang around. Also, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and say hello in chat. If you have questions for us, let us know. We'll hit star on them, mark them, and then try to answer them as soon as we get to them. So welcome, guys, and welcome everybody in chat. I'll give you a chance to say hello.
Hello,
Hi.
everyone.
So there were a few big things that I wanted to talk about today, but there was also some little stuff. And before we get to any of the big things, I wanted to first ask and talk about one of the things that I mentioned to you, Andrew, earlier this week. I was asking you about a spider web particle. So this is going to be like a request for everybody that's watching too. I've been searching and searching and searching for a particle that's a spider web that shoots out and then like covers an area, like something simple and cartoony, but I can't find anything anywhere. So if anybody happens to know of one, please send me a link. The number one request. Now you haven't found any, right, Andrew? You didn't see any other ones out there?
So no, just the one I had shared with you. I have a question though on that. Is it essentially what you're looking for? Like if the spider web was just a piece of fabric, is it the type of thing where if it shot out, it would just kind of wrap around something or just hit something and kind of be like cloth?
Let me show. So less complicated than that. More like right now I have a ugly spider on a orb that's wrapped there to just show that this spot has a web on it. But I was thinking more just like a particle-y mesh that can kind of go through the characters and over the spot. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just something that kind of like looks like the spider, which is, let me show you the guy real quick. Let's turn off all these gizmos. There's a little spider character here. So just having one of these dudes go shoot some web at a guy and like a web appears on it. Just using these random random dudes right now because they're super low poly and they run good on my laptop.
You don't need any particle for that. You can just use an animated mesh with like, I don't know, 7 vertices.
Something like that could work too, but I wanted just like something flashy and kind of easy where I just drop in a particle and not have to try to be artistic myself because I'm very unartistic. I'm terrible at coming up. This was the best I could come up with right here. My beautiful web. So I was hoping to find something that was just like fancy, flashy, just kind of even like a World of Warcraft roots particle, like the little roots coming up out of the ground. That would be sufficient, but I even struggled to find that. I had a really hard time finding like very specific particles that I wanted.
I can help you with that later. There's a few particles. I think Hovel has a few, like 2 effects that would match what you just described with the roots.
Yeah, my spiders pack unfortunately has particles for shooting a web out, but it's kind of just like a swirl that gets shot out, and it doesn't have a spider web that attaches. So the part.
Oh, I know. I tried that one too. That was one of the things I tried. I actually asked around and I was like, the Infinity PBR one has particles. I was like, oh shit, I have that. Let me go check it out. And I was like, oh, this is really, really cool. But it's not the one that because I really want it to like show that an area is like rooted and like can't be moved from. So the shooting effect is kind of like a neat part, but I really need the whatever that landing, like this area can't be walked.
What's interesting is it sounds to me like this is really a maybe not your exact use case, but it sounds like a great use for like a procedural generation system where and I'm thought of like the Ivy, Real Ivy 2, I guess it is now, where you can click a button and it just grows ivy. It would make sense that if you could click a button in an area and then it would grow a spider web in that area and kind of like send out spines looking for something to attach to. And if you run that simulation in a single frame, you could technically just make a cool looking spider web appear in any place. And
I feel like that's what I'm going to end up having to do is something like that.
Well, somebody should build that and then put it on the asset store so you can just buy it from them.
Yeah, that would work for me. I would definitely be all into that. I need something like that at least. You're gonna drop that. What was that? That spiders pack. Let me like that. let's pull that up real quick. I want to show everybody your pack, and then There it is. Drop this thing in chat. And this is so I was actually looking at using some of your characters, Andrew, for this.
Yeah.
When I started putting them in, it was all good and everything was great. And then I went to my laptop and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot my laptop doesn't have a video card. So I was like, I'm gonna just wait until I get the whole gameplay figured out and then figure out my art style afterwards. So I was like, I'm gonna go super low poly and stuff. But yeah, I thought yours would seem like they could be a really cool fit for what I want to do. What I really need to do is see it in the device, because I want to put this onto that Tilt 5 table so I can see the characters down there, and I want to see like what kind of like resolution and colors look really good on there. And because I've seen a couple demos on there, but I haven't gone through and played with a whole bunch of stuff. I assume that like Super HD stuff look really, really cool in there, like it did on the Rift, but I don't really know for sure. Like maybe only
that'd be my hope.
Really cool.
That'd be my hope with that. I would love to, like, it would be really neat if it did look like, if it supported that really well. So if you get really close with your eyes, you can actually see all the reflections and all the detail. That would be a really cool effect, I think, especially if there was an opportunity for those characters like grow to be tabletop size at some point. You know, that'd be really
explosion view.
Yeah, you could like zoom in on them, right? Like the character could like take up the table when it wins and stuff, and be like, "Here's the thing." I think it could be really, really freaking cool. I don't know. I'm just playing around with it though, and having a lot of fun. I want to get these guys in now. They make me want to play with these spiders. All right, I gotta stop playing.
Just kill it with fire, the tab, along with the rest of the asset in the store.
Let me switch my share real quick back over there if I can figure out how to use a computer here. By the way, if you guys have questions, feel free to drop them in chat, and I will try to remember to hit the star button on them. I don't know if you guys saw anything that you wanted to take, but
so there was a question about earlier on, before the stream even started, from Parvard. Ravard. Guys, I've always had a question. Is UE5's Lumen the same as HDRP's real-time global illumination? So does any of you want to take that, or?
I don't know that one.
Oh. Well, the short answer is it's not that, not quite. There are multiple ways to do global illumination, and Lumen is basically voxel tracing, I think was the term. It's a different type of technology, and they're using a lot of different buffers to do it. With Unity's real-time global illumination, you have to bake it in advance, and then using the probes that you have there, you basically get to adjust the lighting to fit the scene. Lumen is an entirely real-time solution, as far as I know, and because of that, you don't need to do any baking, and you still get all the quality of global illumination being present in your scenes. So it supports like far more accurate character movement and the likes of that, because Unity's solution doesn't let you like have a light that moves and applies global illumination to what's around it. With Lumen, you do have that, and if you say put a glowing material over a character's model, and you get that character close to a wall, that material will apply things that can be pulled by this tracing thing that Unreal is doing, and then that can be counted for as the light source for other things to be lit from indirectly. So there you
go. Not the same. Similar, exactly. Trying to address the same kind of problems, but definitely not the same tech.
Yeah, one is.
I feel like in rendering, Unreal has always been like a year or two ahead of Unity and stuff. Though it's like every time like something new comes out, like, and then eventually Unity slowly catches up. At least that's been my experience. I don't know, but then again, I'm also never really pushing the bounds of rendering stuff when I'm working on things. The last time was at a AAA company, we're trying to and really pushing the bounds of the visual quality of stuff, because you got to have usually a pretty big team of artists to actually be able to create the assets and manage all that stuff. Got to be a pretty big team. So it's interesting stuff. I'll shut up now. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, nothing. It's just a lot of people are talking about it in the comments. From DevDunk, Lumen is a huge tech stack, and GI is just one part of that, which uses voxel rendering to bake it in real time. And you can actually see that lighting isn't instant in Lumen. If you take a scene lit in Lumen and you just disable the light, you'll see that it takes a while for the entire scene to pipe down the lighting, because it's basically polling for lights in different areas of the screen, and it kind of shuts them down one by one as they get polled in like round robin. It can't do the entire view in one go.
I think that was a good answer. I want to jump back over to my stuff now because I'm being selfish, and I want to ask you guys a couple questions here, if that's okay. So I was hoping Salim would hop on too, because I wanted to ask him his opinions here. But so I've got this thing. Let me remove. I actually went back a couple versions here just to make it work again, because it's in the middle of a big refactor. But I want to remove the web showing up there. So I've got this game set up right now with the way that it works is just a hex-based movement system. There's a bunch of different characters. You can see the different characters are down here. It's just a set of prefabs that all have slightly different actions, damage, and movement and stuff. So they have different attack ranges. This is really like a walk speed and a run speed I'm kind of playing with, and the values are all garbage. So just assume that all the values are kind of garbage right now, because just
everything is subject to change.
Yes, yeah. It's all just me like kind of experimenting with different mechanics, trying to get all the mechanics in and see what's interesting and what's fun here. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger for you for just a minute. Pop it up there. Not a lot bigger, but a little bit bigger. So here's all the stats on there. You got like damage, some starting health, and some initiative controls, like what order they attack in and stuff. And then we've got it set up with a little hex generator that'll generate out the thing based on the nav mesh that's available. I don't know how I want to do the actual maps, and that's one of the things I want to talk to you guys about. And then there's a set of players. Player just has a script and then a controller, so it can switch between bot or human controls, and it just kind of tells the player what to do. Right now they're both set on bot players so that it's easy to demo, and because it actually works, and I've kind of busted some of my human player stuff, but you can see like they just essentially run around. They'll move based on whatever their initiative is, and then they'll go into an attack round. So at the top you can see they're in a moving round. Let's make this bigger.
So this is going to be the new contest game, right?
What's that?
Royale. This is going to be the new contest game where everyone just fights all at once.
Oh, that would be cool. That's not a bad idea. I like that.
Because the current one takes too long to go through.
Everybody could type in their location they want to go to.
Oh, that's going to take years for a single match.
Fight the nearest one. Now you're getting me inspired.
Yeah.
But you see, they'll move over. They'll start fighting. It's a little bit buggy right now in this version. I was working on the pathfinding, and so it's like halfway through, so it's a little janky.
Well,
but they'll run around. They'll fight. The healer guy, if he was working, would run up and heal. The mage guy shoots projectiles. The archer does an AOE tile-based attack. And they'll fight and kill each other. They also go pick up treasures and potions if I enable those.
Basic AI, essentially.
Essentially, yeah. Just trying to get like a couple of the core things figured out and how I want it to all run. But the bigger problem I'm having, or the bigger question I'm having, is how I actually want it to play. So I started playing with the hex setup because I thought like it makes sense as a tabletop thing. It maps over really well, and it's easy to kind of explain the rules. But I'm not 100% sure that I want to stick with it, that I necessarily want to have like tile-based movement, because even if I do make it as like a tabletop tile type game, I don't know that I need to be sticking to the normal restrictions of a tabletop game, and I don't know that it adds or makes it more fun than being able to maybe like freeform draw out the path that I want my guy to go on, so I can make him like loop around, and I got this little wand thing I could just like draw where I want him to go or something. Like I was thinking something like that might be more fun and a little bit more unique and different, and make it less of a just like every other tactic-y tile-based thing. So, but I don't know. Like maybe that makes it less fun, and the tiles really add to it. So
it depends on the friction. So, go ahead, Andrew.
Well, I was just going to ask, like, is your idea that the players would move one thing at a time, or would each side like pre-plan an entire movement phase and then execute that. And if they run into, like, if I move my character up to the corner thinking I'm going to be sly and go off this area, but my opponent thinks I'm also going to do that, the two characters might end up with each other. And so if that's the case, then I think drawing out the plans, like, I don't know if it translates around the world, but those football or basketball diagrams where you see people drawing out the paths of players, and then you execute that and you see the result and then they fight. I don't know, versus a single move at a time. Like if each player is choosing one thing at a time and kind of chess-like. I think if it's
I
just
was thinking, let me show you real quick. So
Yeah.
I was thinking it'd be kind of like round based, kind of like what you were saying in the first one. So like there'd be a set of time to pick your moves. So like you get each guy, you tell him where that guy is going. That guy goes there, that guy goes here.
Oh yeah.
Right. This is all fucked up. You can tell like the pathfinding range is obviously broken. But then everybody moves. Like so everybody's got a little bit of time to set their moves. Then the moves happen based on whatever the character's initiative is, which could be controlled by who knows what. And then you go on to the next round, and then they fight or they do their actions if they're in range. Is kind of the thought.
If your guy goes the same spot that an enemy is suddenly at and wasn't at before, do they fight or?
Yes.
Okay.
Or they do whatever their action is. So like the spider's got a root one, so he'll shoot a web, or the healer can do a heal, and he'll just try to heal the nearest thing. And if you can't, then they'll do an attack as like their fallback thing.
Yeah, I think that's cool. If they all moved at the same time, that might be more interesting and add some interesting dynamics too. It would add some pathfinding, but it would allow for a more open world map versus Hex, because they would end up pathfinding around each other a little bit.
I was thinking I could use hills and stuff a little bit more interestingly that way too, but I didn't know if it'd be actually fun. So I think maybe I'm gonna experiment with that. Just I've got this all committed, so I might just like swap out my movement system. It'd take me like an hour to change it up, and then do like some kind of drawing one, so that it's pretty easy to do.
Certainly, I think hills and stuff. I think that some of the fun of this type of game is really the terrain, right? And looking at the terrain, looking at the map, and being like, oh, this map has a cliff. I can sit my my range guy way up on the cliff, and now he can just rain fire down, while this other one has a log that my healer can crouch behind and just be safe for a little bit before they're needed, or random strategy stuff like that. So I think you'd have to build that in eventually. Just keeping that in mind, right?
Yeah. I'm starting to lean more towards it after hearing you talk about. What do you think, though, Yori? I'm curious.
So let's go back a bit. When you mentioned the idea of pathing manually and thinking about like with a magic wand where your character should be. So I wanted to say that one thing that's very important about these kinds of games on the board is how clumsy the controls are. Because if the controls are clumsy, you're going to have a bad experience. So if you can make it seamless, it's going to be more fun. If you can make it, if you can't do that, you're going to have a lot of friction. People are not going to try and use it as you've imagined, and then you're not going to have the pleasant experience you've been hoping for. Now, board games means that a lot of people are grouping up, and there's probably going to be some interruptions. So having the ability to just pause the game is kind of convenient. I don't know how you do that. Are you planning to do this PvP even, or is it PvE and like people are working together?
So my plan initially was start it with a simple PvE, and then do some networked PvP, and then local PvP as well. So I figured like networked PvP, you probably don't want pauses, but the games are going to be like 5 minutes. I was thinking like quick 5-minute rounds where you're getting in, setting up your characters, battling, and then it could even be like one of the things I was considering, I don't know for sure, was doing like a set of battles. So it'd be like, maybe 3 or 4 rounds or maybe 5 rounds of fights where after you win, like you adjust your team, your makeup or whatever of your team, and then go back in for the next round or something against the person. So it'd be like best of 3 or something, and have some guys on the side that you can swap in or something like that, or upgrade, or I don't know. It's still way up in the air about it. Like it's just random. The whole thing came as a random idea last Friday, so it hasn't been around for very long.
Well, so the first thing I thought when you said local PvP is that this is going to be a board game, right? People are going to be with a headset looking at the board and like trying to move things around on it, right?
Yes.
Which
And I think local
means
PvP, I would probably need to do like turn-based picking of
exactly,
your actions, so they're not
yeah,
smacking each other's buns.
exactly.
You're like, okay, now you pick, and then be like, you each get 30 seconds to set your actions or whatever. It'd probably just have like a timer, a slider they can set for how fast they want to play. And then
Yeah.
they could go for however long, and then it plays out, and they can both see the fight happen after they've selected their actions, and then do the next one.
the
And then
tilt,
maybe make it so they can arbitrarily hide and rotate it, so people can't really tell what they're doing from moving their wand around.
yeah,
Or you can
maybe
just
make it so
make
they
one,
can. And
Yes,
they
or you can
make
just
random
make one
motion.
headset not show it and the other headset show it, or they
I
can
was
see
gonna ask
different
that.
things.
Is
I
that
just meant they'd
possible?
be able to see the wand moving around though with the hand.
Yeah, you just
Yeah.
have to
Guessing what you're
pretend
doing.
like
But
you're
that might be
moving, so,
cool.
so they don't know. It's like when you like make your footsteps smaller to make or softer to make people think you walked away when you really didn't, and then you creep and go hide somewhere else. Is the Tilt 5 able to show different things to different people?
Yes.
Excellent.
So from
Yeah.
what I understand, the current SDK, or at least as of like 2 weeks ago, only did it one thing, and then they were supporting 2 display devices sometime in the near future. It might already have been out. I've lost track. So it'd be like having 2 monitors output, or like 2 separate displays for your cameras, and then you would just render to that other one, which I think
Yeah.
would be fine on a high-end PC, considering the thing's supposed to run
Yeah.
on mobile devices.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can even like do that with cameras disabling specific layers. You don't even need to do like full on random things. You could use a custom render pass if you're using URP as well.
Yeah.
And just
What I
like
like
render your
about
image
this
with
kind
that.
of game is that the actual game actually takes place when the action isn't happening, right? The action just happens. The game is just trying to second guess and outmaneuver your opponent, guess what they're trying to do, and then get a little bit lucky to have your settings right to take advantage of every potential that might happen in a very short period of time. So you got 30 seconds to do all this stuff, and it's never enough time to do everything. So you just have to be quick. You can't think. You just have to do it, and that's a really cool feeling.
You gotta like
Really,
think while the fighting's going on. Like you like plan it out like in advance a little bit.
yeah,
What you're
yeah,
gonna
Be
do.
fair, to be fair, the waiting time between each player doing their action can let people like drink water or whatever.
Yeah.
Be ready for the next round.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, if it's like a local multiplayer, there's no reason there can't just be a pause button too. You just allow them
Yeah.
to pause, right? Like if it
Yeah, the
network
thing is
multiplayer,
though,
a bit harder, but local, it's pretty simple.
it depends though on how easy it is to unpause once you paused. Because if there's like one button that somebody can smack, then how do other people interact with it? Do you show like, is it individual? Do you have to wait for the other
I think
person
I
to
would
press
just put like a big
unpause?
pause button on the table that anybody can tap to pause the game, and then they tap it again to
Get David
unpause
to
it.
do it.
Maybe it would be like a cool interactive way, just like a button that looks like a pause that you just push up and down. I enabled the treasures, so now they'll go running after treasures, assuming that the pathing is working right. Oh no, they're
How
busy
did you do
fighting.
the pathing actually?
So actually, I went through a couple different iterations. I started off with just some nav mesh stuff because I just wanted some characters running around, and just slapped out some grids. And then I started looking at a couple different hex grid systems and tutorials out there because I haven't built one myself. And I ended up kind of basing it largely off of the one on the Catlight coding page. There's a lot of stuff I didn't go through the whole tutorial thing there because there's a whole lot on like the rendering and generating the maps and stuff, and I wasn't really interested in any of that, just on the hex generation and the movement stuff. So it kind of based it largely off of that, but then I started refactoring it and adjusting some things for the way that the player was moving and the way that the player was getting previews, and I broke everything. So I started doing some movement previews for things, and then in the middle of that refactor late last night, completely busted everything, forgot what I was doing, and needed to come back and redo it. But one of the things that made me consider not do it yet was I just been thinking like I'm not 100% sure I want to stick with the hex thing. So I didn't want to like it's interesting and neat, but I didn't know if I want to really like nail down that system and make it perfect, or if I just want to try out something else because it's kind of cool, but it also feels very formulaic. I don't know. And I mean, that might be a good thing, but for me, like when I'm battling these bots, it's like the formula is too simple. I don't know. I felt like maybe the drawing, but then again, I don't know how the fuck I'm gonna make bots draw an interesting path. So
That's true.
that'll be another different challenge. So
it shouldn't be that big a deal though. You have nav mesh, so you can just make some restrictions and then throw that in.
If with the hex, I mean, this is really a kind of a big decision, really, in my mind, because it is a strategy. Like your strategy of how you move your characters will change whether it's hex or whether it's not hex. Especially if you have a character who can move, say, 40% across the board. Do you move them in a straight line or in a curved line? If you're thinking, okay, they're going to send their tank character straight in the middle, my character needs to get behind it, so I'm going to go in a curve below it. In order to go around where I think this other character is going to end up being when I get there. That, is part of the game.
Yeah. I'm really feeling like the drawing will look cool too. Like you could have a neat path that's like a glowing thing in like over the board, showing it visually. I think it would. Yeah. I think I'm very inclined to just try that out. And you're gonna say something?
Yeah, I'm just saying that if you do want it and you want to reduce the clumsiness, make sure there's a way to undo some steps and then redo them. There are some drawing applications that let you do similar things. For example, Blender has this dragging brush where as you drag a line, there's a radius at which you can move your cursor, but the actual drawn line wouldn't move. So you can start and then like drag it across, and it's going to try and move after it, and then you can change your direction, and it's going to smoothly try and change to another one. And conversely, you can go back if you do a step system, and like every 5 pixels or something that you move, there's a step. You can go back over your steps to undo them and then redraw the line. And if your character has 10 steps, then you can draw them however you wanted. Then say, use this. And then you can move to another character, draw that amount, maybe go back, undo some, do them in another direction, etc.
Would it make sense to make that line into a spline so that whatever line is roughly drawn?
Yeah, that would be just like for the character pathing itself to look natural, but for the player authoring it, you would just use the points, because trying to keep an entire splines are managed by their control points. If you had a control point for every pixel moved, it wouldn't be manageable. Your data would be huge. Trying to figure out how to do which pixels is going to be a mess, etc., etc. So just like splines, you set up control points in a sense that are just the pathing points.
I like that idea. And then I could even have that be part of the way that just use those for the indicator. I could put little footsteps on the ground or a little glowy. Yeah, it's exciting. There was a comment here about Red Blob Games having a great page about hex maps. I just wanted to pop it up because that was another one that I used. I went through that and read through the entire thing to kind of understand how the whole system works and kind of the theory behind it. So that was really useful, and it made the cat-like coding one make a lot more sense for me too. So
I put the link in the chat there if you want to share it to the Red Blob Games. Blob Games.
Oh, let's drop that in here. That was definitely an interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too.
Cool. So there were some other things with this that I was going to ask you guys about too. I'm trying to remember for my my questions and ideas that I was thinking of. So I've got thinking about the pathing system, how I wanted that to work, combat. Oh, like character selection and round selection. So I was curious if you guys had, or if anybody in chat has some ideas on that. Initially, I was thinking like maybe you could build your team before you go into the battle. Maybe like pick 3 out of 6 characters or 3 out of 9 characters that you want to put in there, and like that's like the ones that you're fighting with. And then you can try like mixing and matching, and different combinations could be part of the strategy, like figuring out which meta is good, and work well together, maybe even based on the map or based on who your opponent is. But then I was also thinking it could be interesting to have like characters that you're like upgrading over time, or like leveling up or powering up or getting items for. But I also had, so this is the problem with this is why I don't like to make games on my own. I was also thinking maybe it would be cool if it was like, 100 people, like a more like a battle royale thing with like, or maybe not up to that scale, but multiple players with teams of 3 characters or however many on a much bigger map, kind of roaming around and battling and finding other treasures and stuff. This thing already, I've played it with like up to 10 players so far, and I mean, obviously it worked totally fine with whatever, but um, if the scale wasn't too crazy, that they wouldn't be too hard to make it like a networked one too. I just don't know if it would be more fun
Yeah.
to like control 3 guys running around where there's 30 other people controlling the 3 guys running around, or is it more fun to just 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 battles, or I don't
So
know. So I want to open up thoughts.
yeah, so there's one very big thought, which is the more units you have to manage, the more stressful it is for people to manage them. And conversely, if you don't set a time limit, the longer it is going to take them. And people that are waiting on the other side are going to get bored. So,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
especially if it is a turn based game, you're going to end up waiting more watching the animations happen, which is something that, for example, civilization games are notorious for. As the map grows and you explored more of it and you can see more of it, you're going to see a lot of units moving, and you have to wait until all the animations finish before the next round start up. And people are getting insane over these at sometimes.
Yeah, I
think
think if it was multiplayer like that, it would have to be like
simultaneous
everybody
action.
moving at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think.
but then
Go ahead.
yeah, go on.
No, finish your thoughts.
If you do everything moving in the same time, you lose the ability to like spread out the performance costs of things happening. So it's going to also affect how many units you can actually work with. I do prefer controlling less units at a time, though that's like personal preference. I like being able to think about what I can actually work with, rather than how do I guide each individual piece and like figure out if there's any optimal path for this unit moving 5 steps to the left and this one to the right, or etc.
Yeah. I think you brought up a whole lot of things, and from my mind, it comes down to the interesting decisions that a player gets to make. So starting with the character selection, there's lots of ways of doing that. You could just give everyone a pool of say 1,000 gold, and every character costs a different amount, and maybe you can, upgrade pre-buy upgrades for those, so you can choose to have a couple 3 strong ones or up to maybe 5 weaker ones.
Ooh, like
So
buy like a character and then buy him some armor too.
yeah, so you
Like an
can
extra
start
100
out
gold.
with one a little stronger, and then maybe during the game, each individual character can level up automatically as they do their things. That's just like a story of as long as they stay alive, they keep upgrading themselves. But between each round, you can then buy additional, everyone gets a bit more money, and everyone can upgrade their stuff or add new characters. It might make the game a little bit longer, but and based on the map, you brought up another thing of like there's could be treasure on the map, well placed so that it's evenly, if you're going to rush to the treasure, that's a decision you make. Oh, I want that extra 50 gold, so let me rush there. But knowing that your opponent loves gold, maybe the other person will shoot a missile at that spot, to do damage to anyone that happens to end up being there, or other things. So now if you go back to Heroes of Might and Magic, you got that character in the side, your main hero who's casting spells and stuff. So you've got multiple layers of not too many characters that you're controlling. To your Ice point, I think that's absolutely key, that you're only controlling max 5 characters or 6 characters at a time. They're doing their own thing, so there's some sort of like AI going on. You could always have fun little quips that they say, especially with the VR games. It's awesome when the little characters look at the player who's controlling them and says like, "What the heck?"
Good idea.
Stuff like that. And then now you have decisions that come between each round. So the rounds are also, yes, you want to destroy your enemy, but you also want to help yourself, and you have to make that interesting choice between where do I put my focus, and then you have your reaction too. So, oh shoot, in that last round, I didn't even realize that they were going to upgrade their magic user. Now I need to buy this upgrade to counteract that. I wasn't planning on doing that. Now I have to pivot, and that's another fun, interesting decision you get to make.
There's
Drops a lot
something
of things.
That's something very important that you brought up there. So strategically, whenever you make a game where a lot of unit planning is done up front, it's called the war is already lost as soon as before it even started. Because if you buy units that are countered by another player's units and you have no way to course correct during a match, you're basically screwed. The game is basically over before that, and that's going to make like a very high forfeit early rate, where people are like saying, yeah, I took some damage, a critical unit died, I have no way to compensate for this loss, I have basically lost the entire match. It's just a matter of how long it takes for the other units to get wiped out.
Balance is important.
Adding power-ups on the field lets you adjust that a lot, because even if somebody buys a strong unit, you could buy an army of weak units, but they're all running around, and that one big unit can't kill them all as they grab all the power-ups, and essentially they become middle power units that can gang up on it, just as an example.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
game changers on the field are important, not just things for the next round.
Yeah. I guess the rounds would also then have to be short enough that you can, like, the first round, after the first round, you not much has happened necessarily, because you're just now moving onto the field. Now you've seen what the other player put on the field, and now you have to make that reaction like, oh shit, okay, I wasn't expecting that. And you haven't lost yet because nothing really has happened. It's just the first kind of reveal.
Yeah, it could just be like a little mini version of like a smaller map, and the map gets bigger each round too. Like it started off like a small one, so you're kind of close and you're fighting, and it's like a 3 or 4 minute battle at first, and then.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, with the idea of doing a battle royale type of thing, I think that's a really neat idea. I don't know how many you could get, but spokes on a wheel, you can get bigger and bigger, and all of a sudden you could have 12 different people all around in a circle. But if in that situation, you're probably gonna get a lot of turtling. So even in the 2-player game, you might want to eventually start closing the map and forcing people into the middle.
That's kind of what the treasure was there for initially. One of the things is, you can't see it now because I've disabled the visuals, but they have a visual range, so they can only see like eight blocks away right now. I think it's kind of hard coded, but I put the treasures in there because they could see those across the entire map. So it'd be a point of interest. If they don't have something to go to, the AI would just go to it immediately. And I'm thinking it'd be all fog of war, and then there'd be like some points of interest that kind of like light up. And then obviously people are going to go there because there'd be, like you already said, some game changing things there that actually matter there, that make a big difference. Right now, these chests actually just give them another unit, so they make a huge fucking difference, right? Like,
yeah.
But yeah. My only concern with the battle royale was like scale. Like, would it get boring if like you're running around for too long and like you don't see anybody? Like, you're running around for 10 turns and you haven't run into anybody because there's too much space or something else.
I was about to bring up that, as you said, having the field expand is actually counterintuitive, because units try to coalesce into the same area so they can fight and eliminate each other. So you're basically making the game arbitrarily longer, and there's counter incentive. Do I go far away so that I can just pick something up, and nobody who's chasing me from the other side that I didn't reach it has any chance to get? Or do I just go and keep fighting and hoping to finish it quickly, knowing that they might be doing the same? It's like basically both people are going to call us into the strategy of just going to pick something up from the other side of the field and then coming back, and it's just going to make the game arbitrarily long.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No. So when I was talking about making it bigger, what I was really thinking, and I want to just clarify a little bit, is having the map be like like super small, like maybe 3 by 6 or something at first on the first round, like some little tiny one. Characters battle, they kind of see each other, they fight, and then it goes out to like a more normal size map for the second round. So they do like a real quick fight to kind of see what the enemy has chosen and stuff. Maybe not like down to a boring scale, but they can do like a semi-interesting fight, and then have a bigger fight where they have some map objectives where there's stuff on the board that matters once they've seen what everybody's picked. I don't know that it would be fun. It was just a random idea though.
Someone mentioned in the chat Line War. I shared a link to the Steam page for this game called Line War, which does appear to be very similar in some ways. The video shows them drawing the lines through the map and whatnot.
Yes, I have played this game.
Oh, you
it's
have?
actually pretty cool.
Nice.
It's a strategy game though. It's I'm pretty sure the dude that made it was on YouTube. Let me pull it up. I'm just share it on my screen. And then Yora, you said there were good suggestions in chat. I've been missing it because it's right behind my mic window. There's Line War.
Yeah.
It is cool. It's essentially, it's kind of like what we've been talking about a little bit, but it's more of that RTS. It's very heavily focused on the initial picks. So you pick the areas where you want your bases and your buildings and stuff on this randomly generated map, and then you're kind of giving orders from there. Like you give move orders and attack orders from one place to another. As the units go into there, they continue along it and do the move. So it's much more of a, it's kind of similar, but it's more like long-term RTS, big scale. Yeah, Emphysema. I can never remember how to pronounce the dude's name, but he's on YouTube all the time, and he streamed and talked about the game quite a bit while I was building it. It's actually pretty fun. I had a lot of fun playing it when it came out.
Bethesda used to be an Asset Store publisher, I think, or they still are, but I think they don't do anything anymore.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's pretty cool, but slightly different. This is much more of that large scale, like controlling the map and controlling a bunch of units trying to take over and dominate. Not like, I think much more, there's a similar movement mechanic though. Definitely, like you actually draw out the paths and stuff.
Yeah, it's much more large scale than what you're looking at.
I get, well, it's more like it's like you're controlling a whole team or like a whole army of stuff and building a bunch of units. I was thinking more just like controlling. I was literally thinking 3 guys, like you control 3 guys at a time, and maybe you can pick from more, just so that way the 3 guys can each have like 1 or 2 interesting abilities each. I mean, like if each character had 2 interesting abilities and you had 3 characters, and you could kind of control those and do stuff. Should be fun. Kind of like little mini MOBA.
Is that the time to interject and say that you're kind of entering the feature creep zone again?
Of course.
Right now I'm entering it's more, I don't know what's actually a good feature. This is very much this is the problem that I run into, is like, I don't know what I want to build because I'm not really sure what's going to be fun. And I always just like end up experimenting a lot, trying to figure out what
a lot of the things you're suggesting though are kind of semi-solved by other games, so we can just open them up, play a match or 2, and figure out if you're liking this or not, and then see what you're taking and what you're changing.
That is true. That is a very good point.
Learning from the competition is important as well.
Have you played the Gloomhaven game on your computer yet?
No.
That is grid-based, hex-based. It's a tabletop game, and it's made into a computer game. I don't know. My friend will clearly state that it makes sense that it's actually a computer game made into a tabletop game first for some reason, because of all the enemy AI that you have to figure out on your own. It's so much easier if you don't have to. But that might have some interesting ideas in terms of, like, you know, the AI movement on a hex-based system, various things like the attacks, the area of attacks, range attacks, initiative, different special attack, etc., etc. So,
no, I'm gonna have to try it. I actually have that board game, but we haven't played it because I haven't been able to convince anybody to play it with me.
I am in the same boat. You just need to live closer to me, and then I'd play it with you. I've got
I have a couple that are like just sitting open, like nobody will play them with me.
I think not half, but almost half of these games I've never actually played. I just bought 3 new games a couple weeks ago, and I don't know if I'll ever play them, but I bought them and I opened them and I looked at them and I decided I like big boxes.
Yes,
the big boxes are fun. Yes,
it's hilarious.
Yep.
All right, so there were a couple questions. I guess we could pop up here real quick. Yorai, there was one about V Rising. Have you tried it yet?
Yes, I have tried it for more than 10 hours. Just yesterday, even. I have 23 hours on this already. And I can very much say that I love that game. Love is a bit of a strong word, but I am enjoying it a lot. So previously, I've talked about Valheim in a few GameDev shows ago. And I do have one very big dislike about something that Valheim does, which is that if I close the interface, if I just hide the interface away and I try to look at my character in Valheim at the beginning of the game and the end of the game, and the characters are not doing anything different, then I feel like I didn't gain almost anything new from the experience throughout the journey. It's like I'm not changing how I'm playing. I'm just seeing new content being drip fed to me. And essentially, I could have gotten that from like a quick video after the first 10 minutes of playing. But with V Rising, which a lot of people compared to Valheim, I was actually really pleasantly surprised because the game keeps changing constantly. Like every single new enemy you kill, you get a new ability. So you get to change how you play based around that ability. You unlock item upgrades, and those item upgrades grant new abilities to the weapons you're using. So the weapon starts with just basic attacks, but then you get an active ability for the weapon that has its own cooldown, and different weapon types have different abilities and cooldowns respectively. And as you progress in the game and you get all of those new abilities that trivialize certain problems, you actually get new problems to solve because the new content is locked behind a mechanic you didn't interact with. So I am enjoying this game a lot. It's like it's got a lot of really good aspects that a lot of games should look at. I dislike a lot of the waiting times in this, but I understand that the game was balanced kind of around PvP, and they do have a config file that lets you change a lot of the settings regarding drops and waiting times. So with some friends, I have a server that we're playing on, and self-hosted, and there we just upped all the waiting times to not exist almost, and we're having a ton of fun. It feels almost like Terraria in a sense, for a few things. It is in early access, so there is a bit of a lack of quality of life, specifically with inventory management. But damn, this game can be fun for a few hours at a day.
It looks pretty cool. I haven't played it yet myself, though. I've been gone all weekend.
A really good execution on a lot of mechanics, and visuals are so yeah.
Yeah, it definitely shows. And I mean, it's been super popular. Everybody I know has been talking about it, so I need to grab it and try it out. Can you just briefly explain, aside from the like the constant changes, is there anything else really cool about it or unique that makes it interesting?
The mechanics work out really well. So you play as a vampire, and most games just have you say, "Oh, you're weak in the day," but this doesn't do that. Instead, you take damage in the sun, and a lot of objects emit shadow. So you have to go around the shadows while you're in daylight. And one thing that's really interesting is because the game is resource heavy for the players to consume from the world. So, for example, if there's a tree, you want to cut it so you get some wood, but then you lose the tree to give you shade. So you have to find another spot to run around to. And the day-night cycle has a lot of like very interesting moments where you fight a boss in an open field, and suddenly the game turns into daylight, and the sun starts searing you dead. So that was fun. Later on, there's garlic fields, and garlic aren't just like instant death or strong debuff. Instead, they accumulate over time. You accumulate the garlic weakness, and you get stacks of it up to 100. And each stack makes you take like 0.5% more damage. So if you're at 100 stacks of garlic after a while that you've been running around there, you'll take double the damage from all enemies. You also deal half the damage equivalently at 100 stacks. So it's there, and there's a lot of useful things in gardens that are protected by garlic. So you just run in, you ransack the entire place, and you run the hell out. So that's really interesting. And they have a lot of stats for things that you're weak against. So you can specifically build against, say, sun resistance, fire resistance, garlic resistance, silver resistance, which is another thing. There's NPCs that have silver coins that you can use to do mercantile with. And if you carry silver around you, it deals you damage over time, depending on how much silver you carry. So you have to start like running to base carrying it because you can't teleport with it. And it also taking damage breaks out forms that make you faster. You can turn into a wolf and you can run, but if you take damage from the silver, you stop running as a wolf, so you lose the movement speed bonus. So that's really fun to think about. Later on, you get a bear form that also has silver resistance, so you can carry some of the silver while still having movement speed. And there's like a silver mine straight away from the farthest point in the map from where we started. So it's kind of a walk to have all that.
Interesting. That's crazy. That sounds really cool. It sounds super like just RPG-ish, which most
Yeah,
games like kind of
there's a
leave
lot.
out all that cool stuff.
Yeah, and there's a lot of bosses, by the way. This is like one of the best feeling parts about it, because each boss has like unique attacks and mechanics for itself, and I am enjoying a lot of trying to fight them. They're always in specific areas roaming about, and they will try to chase you around if you get near them. Some of them are vampire hunters, some of them are like really strong elites. There's holy priestesses and stuff. It's really fun to see what they do to you, and the oh shit moments where you try to run around back to your area carrying a lot of loot and you're at half HP and suddenly a boss wanders into view, just casually walking.
Yeah, that sounds fun. I'm gonna have to try it out for sure. Do you know what this blood mechanic is? Can you explain that?
Which one?
There was a question. Can you talk about the
Uh,
blood mechanic? This is the friend was going on about it in B Rising.
Yeah, okay. So there is a blood container for each character that contains a few liters of blood. Now, that liter drains over time, and if you're lacking in blood, you're going to be starved and start taking damage over time really quickly. So what you do is you go around enemies, and each one of them has a certain type of blood, and that blood has a certain amount of purity to it. And as they get low on HP, you can start draining their blood. Like you take a wolf down to 30% HP, and then you can click a button that snaps your character to it, and you start draining blood. Now, during that process, you're exposed to attacks, so you have to like isolate the enemy in order to do that. But if you finish draining the blood, you gain all your liters of blood back, and your blood type is now the blood type you drained. And each blood type gives you different bonuses. So, for example, there's creature type blood, which gives you movement speed and sun resistance. There's scholar blood that reduces ability cooldowns. There's brute blood that gives you lifesteal on attacks. There's warrior blood that increases physical damage. And they all have like bonuses depending on how pure the blood is, but it keeps draining, so you never can never stay on the same blood type for a full amount of time. And I find that like really, really fun to think about. Later on, you get abilities that let you charm humans, and then you can take them and jail them, so you can keep them for a meal later. You can also turn them into servants, and then they can go do quests for you. You can't use them for blood anymore, but it's still really fun. And there's a lot of like dynamics of which kind of blood type do you want for your build, how pure is it, if you run out of a blood type, what do you do, because you use blood to heal yourself. Enemies will deal damage to you that reduces your maximum health after a while, and the only way to get it back, as far as I remember directly at least, is to use blood healing, which drains the liters directly but heals you really quickly and gives you your max HP back. So you get some blood that's really, really good, and you want to preserve it, so you try to not get hit. But if you do get hit, you heal up, and you have to find more blood to get.
Huh. It sounds really cool. I'll have to play this week.
It's
Try it out.
pretty addictive, so try to set yourself up for a whole weekend, or else you might have some scheduling issues.
Yeah, I have to do it when the kids are away or in bed. Sometime where I can get a nice big chunk of time. Usually that's when I start doing a bunch of coding, but I'm gonna have to try playing this thing because it looks really pretty. And the way you describe it makes it sound even cooler. Andrew, there was a question up here that I've been wanting to ask you because it popped up, and I figured you were the perfect person for answering it. It says, any thoughts on character customization? What are your favorite ways to allow players to customize their appearance without needing to add tons of extra animation?
I'm assuming that means like if you change your wardrobe and stuff, suddenly the animation has to change. I think the best is to allow some clipping of your character so that you don't have to worry about that too much. I know I have the problem where I don't want to see any clipping, but then I play games like any game
All of
that
them?
came out, all of them, and I'm like, oh, it's clipping left and right. They're just like, no, we're gonna give you this giant armor thing, and yes, it's gonna clip with the weapon, it's gonna clip with your face, and it's like, okay,
You're
fine.
killing me here, Andrew.
So but I think customization is, I like using the blend shapes to customize the face and body size, and and stuff like that. I think color, the skin tone is also something to customize. Is very important. Hairstyles. Again, with the hairstyles, you're gonna face clipping if you have helmets. So you're gonna have to solve for that. That either, I know there's probably some solutions where it turns off various meshes because it kind of casts a ray and does things, turns off faces that intersect and other things. That's going to be a challenge, I think, is hair, but customizing the hair is really fun. Or what was the game? I just the one that with the stupid lever came out, and you could customize your
Elden
character.
Ring.
The Elden Ring.
The lever game.
You can customize your character, but right after you finish customizing your character, they get covered in all this armor. Suddenly you can't see them, and it's like, oh, okay. So what was the point of that? So I don't know. Yeah, but I think if it's a very vague question in some ways, but I think letting people choose their base look is important, and then if they're equipping armor and stuff during the game, then you can't. That's not really a customization necessarily. But if it's just like everything's the same, you just change your look. Then just have a whole bunch of different armor types that people can choose from, and they can make themselves look cool for them.
Yeah. Just a note on that, even just color customization can carry you a long way in making sure that somebody is happy or unhappy with whatever customization options you provide. And you don't need extra animations for color to change.
Yeah. Or really any of the other things, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, if you have, like, say, male or female character animation sets just to accentuate how they act, that is a lot of work to add. And then if you have a short character or a big character, they're going to handle different weapons in a different way. For example, if you have a weapon that's one-handed, you're going to have to figure out how big it is compared to the character's arm. And conversely, if the character has short arms or long arms, they're going to hold the weapon differently. There's Sword Art Online. What was the full name? There was a game of Sword Art Online on Steam, Fatal Bullet, that let you create your own character there, and you can change the arm length. But as you did that, if you set yourself with really short arms, it was really short arms, the character would struggle to reach for the weapon. And there was one point where if you hold a pistol forward like that, the character's arm is going to stretch out weirdly, and it's going to hold it like this.
Yeah.
Like upside down. It's really, really funny. Good thing
So
that they
maybe-
let you. One good thing that you should have there is that if people are unhappy with their choices, they can change the customization later to fix those issues directly.
Yeah, and in those situations, maybe you can allow them to be shorter, but not that much shorter.
Yeah.
Within some range where it makes sense. But I guess one thing that would add different animations is weapon types. So if everyone starts with a sword, but then you add a spear, I know in the game I made, the barbarian, all the swings were kind of the same thing. It didn't matter whether you just swung a spear the same way you'd swing a sword. But really, a spear or a staff is going to be held differently and probably going to come with different attacks and stuff. So if you do have different weapons, that will require different animations.
Yeah. There is a way to make animations that kind of fit multiple weapon types, and a lot of games can get away with it. There was Final Fantasy 13 Lightning Returns has a really interesting weapon type that is basically you have short swords and you have great swords, but there's also a two-way sword that has like a blade both up and down. And when you attack with it, you attack as if it's one sword, but the weapon itself spins. And as it spins, it looks like you're using both blades to attack, and it deals damage twice. And you can't zoom in wherever you want. The camera is like self-controlling. So you end up thinking, oh, cool, she spinned her weapon when she attacked. That is a pretty neat trick you can do with some of these things. VFX can cover up a lot of your mishaps, by the way.
Yes. That's when I play games, that's the one thing I notice all the time is ways that they just obfuscate issues that without all the visual effects or the post-processing or the speed of things, you would be like, wait, that doesn't look right. But then you just add a particle, you add a speed, you add a sound effect, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you don't even notice these things because it's just you're playing the game, and that's important, I think, to keep in mind, especially for those who are more perfectionists.
I think this is the best character customization demo one you've got, by the way.
I know. I need to make more videos like this.
I love to show this one. It's really, really cool. Let me show the link for this too. Can you tell everybody really quickly what blend shapes are? I'm sure that there's going to be like at least 25, maybe half the people in here that don't know what blend shapes are. Can you just tell everybody what they are and how it? Because right here they're probably seeing the texture swapping. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger.
Yeah, and there's a point at which I just slide through the shapes and you can see them moving. So it's called morph targets in some applications. Essentially, you take a mesh with one set of vertices or faces and vertices, etc., and you just morph it. You make it bigger, smaller, and then you save each version. So the FBX, the character FBX, has each version built into it, and each aspect is one shape. So you can say, hey, this nose is this size, and then I make a new version where it's bigger and I save that as big nose, and then the shape is basically there's the two versions and it will just interpolate between the two as you slide up, so you can literally slide between one and the other. Now what's really exciting about that is you can mix and match them in lots of different ways. So like for the axe there as an example, you've got the shape of the blades, you got the handle length, you've got the spike length, you've got perhaps a width of something. And if you start mixing and matching, you can end up getting vastly different looks out of one thing just because there's all the different shapes. It makes the file bigger. The FBX is bigger because there's just more data. But at runtime, there's absolutely no impact on
there is an impact on memory, but it's not big.
There's such a small impact on performance. But so you can do it in real time, essentially. And, one of the things I always tell people with these bad guys, for instance, you can also randomize it. So every time you create a new one, randomize it. You can save the data so that each bad guy is slightly different. Combine that with different submeshes, as you see there, where it's just turning on and off. Combine that with different submeshes, with different textures. And one character can suddenly become hundreds of different characters, hence Infinity VBR, infinite looks out of things. So now you know the name. But yeah, so it's basically you're taking two versions and interpolating between the two. A little extra work has to be put in for the wardrobe with our blend shapes manager, which you're free to use if you want to use this in your own stuff. You just have to, every wardrobe that's on top of something that needs to change with it has a hidden shape. It's just a different naming convention, so it's not revealed to the game editor inside the manager. And so if the bicep gets bigger, any object that has a matched shape on that will also get bigger. And it's literally 1-to-1. So if it matches at every shape, then it should match at every position between the two shapes. It can get a little wonky if you have, we do our shapes pretty extreme. So I tend to clamp them because especially with the face and stuff, if you start changing a lot of shapes, you can get some really weird looks if you put them all to the extreme. But it's a really cool concept. I think I wish more people on the Asset Store, more producers of content on the Asset Store would make use of it. Because it's just really cool. It's also used for the animations. You could do animations with it. So a lot of face animations are using blend shapes instead of bones for a more natural look. It looks a little bit better. But yep. So non-animated blend shapes is what I use for mesh morphing.
Yeah, to be fair though, you can animate the blend shapes even in Unity, and there's something just to clarify here. So you said that you're making versions of the mesh and then you change them a bit and then you can interpolate between the changes. But what's actually happening on the back is that the morph target is saying these meshes are identical. The vertices, the 3D points in space, just moved a bit on one version of them. I can save that from the starting point and the ending point of each vertex to a data set. And that data set is what you're interpolating between. You can go past the bounds because you know how much you're moving. If you're moving 3 units across the shape, you can say, you know what, go 150% and do 4.5. And that can explode your units. You can actually do that in Unity as well, I think. It's not recommended, of course. You designed it so it only goes up to 3. But it's just an offset. And what is really important here is that you can stack them. So you can say this nose goes a bit farther, and also it's a bit bigger, and also it's a bit more slanted. Each one of these is an offset. They just stack up together, not necessarily in a good way. If you look at Fallout games and the likes, you can make situations where character lips, for example, go past each other. That's because the shapes are stacking on top of each other, and they end up not caring for physical limits. So that's always interesting to try and solve. Usually you do that so each shape is subtle or that they override each other. So if you try to move one of them, it reduces the amount of the other ones. Also, something very important to point out, you can mix and match that with all the other techniques. So you can change color and blend shapes, and you can even disable some game objects. So for example, if this Minotaur has 2 horns, you can literally disable one of the horns and change the shape of the other one. You can create a lot of different variety with just morph targets and turning things on and off.
Yeah. We had with my Anubis character, the modeler shipped it with I think 1 or 2 anklets, just rings around the ankles, and the animator who first did blend shapes with me and introduced me to it, really without him we wouldn't have it, was able to make those duplicate. So suddenly instead of 2, that's what the model came with, you could have 10, and they just stack up on the leg just through the shapes, and it was just boom, 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 boom. I don't know how he did that, but yes, you can do a ton with them beyond just morphing the shape. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's like magic. I tell people they should use them. I'm trying to get all the artists that I work with to use them now.
It's actually a challenge. I know, like going on to Fiverr, I've been dabbling in Fiverr, mostly not successfully, unfortunately, with artists. And when I say, oh, we do blend shapes, some will say, oh, I don't do that, and they just flat out refuse the contract. It's not difficult. It's a new thing for you to learn as a modeler, I suppose, but it's not difficult. But some people flat out refuse. Others just get really confused, and even though I send them examples and show them how it's supposed to be set up, they just never can figure out how to set it up. And I, of course, don't know how to use Maya or 3D Studio Max, so I'm like, I can't help you there. That's you're the expert. That's why I'm hiring you. But yeah, so I suggest people learn it, but I guess a lot of modelers just haven't gone down that route yet.
Yeah, I think it's an important skill. I've found a couple on Fiverr that can do them pretty well. If I haven't shared them with you, I'll have to do that.
Please do. Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm just crying in the lack of VFX artists. It's like hunting down unicorns, trying to figure out anybody who can make me understand how this one effect I have no idea how to recreate is working.
Yeah. Someone watching probably knows, and they should contact you.
Yeah.
Totally. Except I don't have a contact email, so that's nice.
Is it in Unity or is it in Unreal?
Yes. I'm kidding. I'm literally just going over the how do I construct this well, because I'm well versed enough to know that if I try to force it, I can probably make it in both of them, but I don't want to deal with wasting the time doing that. I want to pay somebody money in order to have the effect that I can just drop in and have fun with. And I'm messing with both engines these days, so it's not like it matters to me that much which one is it, as long as I have that one very fun moment where the VFX goes and I'm just
Yeah.
There are moments where you're like super satisfied with content that you have in a scene that you just keep replaying it, or you mess with a mechanic that you just added. I try to have these moments, and one of these moments needs VFX, and I don't want to make the VFX myself. So I'm really angry that I'm not getting that one moment.
Hopefully you can find a VFX artist. I know some, but none that are ever available for actual contract work, which makes it difficult. And trying to find one to make me a spider web right now. There was a super chat that popped up. I wanted to answer it real quick. It was from Mr. Bubbles asking for advice on name spacing interfaces. I don't know your thoughts on this, Uri, but I want to jump on and just be honest here that I almost never had namespaces in Unity projects anymore. It's very rare that I end up unless it ends up being something that I'm shipping and sharing, like it's a library or a package or if it's an asset pack that I'm going to put out there, I'll put it in a namespace. But in my own projects, I almost just like the the benefit isn't there most of the time for me, so I just don't end up doing it. I don't end up creating namespaces and wrapping everything in them. I know that theoretically I should, but there's really just not a benefit that I run into most of the time. And again, it's largely because I'm mostly working on projects myself, not sharing and shipping anything. And I haven't had a namespace conflict in the last 8 years, at least maybe 10. So I remember it being a big problem many times in the past, especially in my Windows development days. Now, not so much.
My own opinion on this is that you only need namespaces if you have boundaries that shouldn't be crossed. And in Unity, you usually just work on the game. You try to not have more things to work on. So if it's all just supposed to interact with each other, namespaces are going to do nothing for you. They're just going to complicate how things look. Namespaces are for separating things so that you know that they're not crossing each other and there's dependencies that flow kind of one way. You are using this system by the merit of saying this is the namespace. Now, in terms of drawing boundaries, I try to keep it by feature. So if I have user interface, I will put an interface, a namespace for user interfaces, and then I'll put my interfaces for whatever abstract thing I'm trying to make there. I just realized that using user interfaces and then talking about interfaces is kind of counterintuitive. So, for example, an interface for combat would have an I hittable, or I take damage, or I take healing. And then I know that it's only going to be used kind of like within that realm of the combat. And if there's an extension for gameplay purposes that uses the combat mechanics, then yeah, it can take that in. But I don't want something, say, in the UI to start taking it, unless, of course, it's implementing something for, combat purposes. So it's about drawing the boundaries and thinking about whether you actually need the boundary to be there, because we talked about it in previous game dev shows with Jason Story, and a lot of people are drawing boundaries because it's cool rather than because it gives them value.
Do you see there's a follow-up comment there that their systems are going across projects at least? Oh, lost your eyes video.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're packing these systems up into something and then passing that around. In that case, in my own situation, I would probably just keep it all in a single namespace. I usually don't like separate out the interfaces themselves into separate namespaces. And I would maybe at the most have like separate namespaces per systems. When you say their systems are per or cross project, if there are some systems that you like integrate into all of the projects and some that you don't integrate into other projects, that's probably where I would have that separation, so that the things that go into all projects are in one namespace, and then the things that go into that get kind of distributed separately are in another one. I don't think that you necessarily need to go much deeper than that unless you're getting in like a really large library or something. Otherwise, it just makes it a little bit more difficult for yourself and your team to find your stuff. You're probably, unless you have just a ridiculous number of systems, but most people don't. It's usually like one set of stuff that's used across all projects, and they're using almost all of it, and they're just importing the whole thing in every time, or they're pulling in maybe like one other extra sub part that's like unique to that project and one other one. But I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts on that,
Go ahead.
Andrew?
I just started using namespaces more robustly in the past year, and like last night actually, I was realized I could make a utilities script just with very simple like distance method and angle method stuff that I'm going to reuse a lot, so I have the same math on every single time I use it. And I put that into a namespace for Legend of the Stones, the game. So it's Legend of the Stones. Well, actually, it's Infinity PBR / Legend of the Stones utilities. And so now the benefit I realized is that I can name the method distance, and it's okay that it's the same method as some other static method out there that with the same name, because I can separate into a namespace. So I don't have to name the method something unique and worry about
more the
conflict.
class that you
Right,
have
that's
to
what I
worry
meant, yeah.
about.
The class.
The one issue that I have with that though is that then when you do run into the extra one, you're going to be dealing with the which one is this issue constantly.
True.
Ambiguity
Like
issue.
random.
And you have to make sure that you're assigning it and specifying the correct one there in all of the places. So that's why I usually I like to just make a specific helpers or assets extension thing for that class that's just kind of named after, like I'd have a LOTS helpers. You can't hear you yet, Slim, because you're not in the call. As soon as I hit you the button, you'll pop in. Are you ready? I'll take that as a yes, because I can't hear you. I still can't hear you though.
That's why I was.
You're very quiet.
You're very quiet, but we can hear you very little.
Oh, I can't hear anything. I'm deaf though, so that might be why. Your green bar's not going up though. So once your green bar goes up, then it means we can hear you.
All right, give me a second.
Which is good because I wanted to ask Salim for some design advice on this this game too. Hopefully he can speak it and not sign it, because I can't do sign language. My kids can. They both learned in high school, but I can't.
Oh, wow.
The great Salim is here.
Hello.
So let's see. Oh, interesting. That's a good question too. I'm gonna flag some of these questions real quick.
And
Oh,
the
and
camera
we
light
lost
again.
Yora's camera. All
It's
kinds
even
of
worse because I also lost my keyboard.
lost the keyboard and camera at the same time.
Yeah, I'm glad my mouse still works. I'm gonna mute and try and fix this real quick.
Okay. All right. Let me hold on. Let me dismiss a couple questions here. But where's the button to get rid of them? Okay. How would you guys approach implementing different game modes in Unity, like a mode with a timer, another with scores, etc.? If you want to do something like that, you've really got to make sure that you separate out your systems and that you kind of isolate all of the different things. So that's one of the things I've been doing with this little strategy tabletop battler thingy, is like really making sure that each system can be controlled by any different thing at different times. So a bot can control stuff. Hey, Slam, the network can control stuff, or the player can control things. And then the timing of it is based on when I send the command for it to do the next thing. So it's not just like a whole bunch of random things all keeping track of their own time and stuff. You want to have a single spot that's kind of controlling that flow, some sort of a game manager. It could be split into multiple states for the different states that you're dealing with, but they would be maybe unique to that game mode, and then have that thing controlling the flow, and then all of the other systems kind of responding to that. And that's my general advice on that. All right, Salim, I can hear you now.
Good.
Sounding good. All right, let me screen share again. Where's my window? Window. Oh no, I closed it. I didn't realize Salim was coming. I'm gonna
There we go.
reopen my window.
I'm back.
Welcome back. You all right?
Hi, Salim.
What's going on, man?
Going well. There was one question. I'm not sure if you asked that already. How would you guys approach implementing different game modes in Unity? Modes with a timer, another with scores, etc. I assume this means technically.
You missed.
Yeah, that's the one I just answered.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, do you have an answer for that? I was just telling them really to make sure that the game flow control is totally separated out into a system that's controlling all of these systems independently, and to make sure that like whatever the game is, the entities aren't really controlling what they do, and they're being driven by something else, either by some player thing that's then maybe separated out and then driven by a whole game state. If they want to be able to really control and switch between turn-based and real-time. That said, you probably shouldn't do that. You probably don't really want to have those modes realistically. But if you want to, you should split. Either way, you should split the code out so that you can switch between them, I think.
Yeah, clinically speaking, modes are just scripts that count stuff and say, yeah, I'm done, move to something else. So for example, if there's a game mode about scores, you're basically just saying, start the game, wait until an amount of score is reached, end the game mode. And that's a really simple script to do in isolation. You just have to think about what gives the script scores, and if there's a timer, it's only counting time. And at the end, it's reporting, hey, I'm done counting. Anything that tracks like who's the winner, announce that now. So it's really simple scripts and then compositing them. So you could have a single game mode that's basically a bunch of scripts that say count until a player has 5 score, then give them 3 minutes to collect coins, then have them collect scores again until something else happens. I don't know, until they die. Or lose all their health in game, etc. You don't need to do anything grandiose. You literally just need a simple script that does the counting, and that's a game mode for you. It's about how you present it to a player, not about how you write the code for it.
Yeah, actually, rereading this question, I was thinking of a much bigger thing, not win conditions, because this is really just how you implement different win conditions. I was thinking of like being able to switch between single player, multiplayer, networked, local, and all kinds of other different things. Being able to completely switch, and that's just because that's what I've been doing in this last week, thinking about in my head on this fucking project, trying to figure out like how to make it so I can switch back and forth between them. So yeah, it's much simpler than what I said with your guys' answer on these like win conditions. It shouldn't be complicated at all. It should be pretty simple. Just keep your normal game flow. I'm glad you answered that because my answer was way overcomplicated because I misread that thing like crazy. Let me share. Oh, it says it's already open. Where's my window? All right, window. Can I share you? Window. And it's just going to keep messing with me. Come on. Sorry, the restream window, it does this weird thing where the window pops up and then disappears. All right, Salim, can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right, so this is what I need you to think about for the next week instead of work or anything else important, okay?
Okay.
Just kidding. So I've been playing around with this combat battle game idea. It's kind of inspired by the tilt fight table, trying to put something onto that little interface so that you could drag the dudes around and have some battles. And initially set it up with this hex system for movement and combat. So the bots will just kind of run around. They'll run up to each other, fight each other, go for the treasures and do abilities. And there's a player controlled mode that's somewhat broken right now. But I was talking to the guys earlier about how I was thinking about ditching the hex system and going for more of like a hand drawn, like draw out your path instead. So you can kind of pick that. And a whole bunch of other ideas. But I mean, we kind of talked through it a little bit earlier, but I was just curious if you had some general thoughts and ideas. I was thinking it'd be maybe like 3 characters on each side, 2 players, 4 players, infinite players. I don't really know. And then either local or networked or both. Some sort of powering up and leveling up mechanics. Again, all totally up in the air, just kind of experimenting and having fun with it. So I wanted to pick your brain because I knew you'd come up with like crazy cool stuff too.
I'm getting too old for crazy cool stuff. Why you want to do a hand-drawn thing for a basic tactical movement thing?
Well, what I was thinking is with that Tilt 5 thing, they have that little wand. Have you seen it? It looks like the lighter thing. And I was thinking it was kind of like you could like click your dude and then like draw out the path of where you want him to go.
Oh.
So they could like go around obstacles and go around enemies and like predict. So the way that it works right now is when they select things, right now it's in bots only mode. Let me switch it to a human. So you select your movements and then it's not. I just wasn't selecting movements. So my characters were sitting still. So you pick your character and then you pick all your movements and then all the movements happen based on the character's priorities. So you give them like that one's going there, that guy goes there. It's all fucked up and broken right now, but get the general idea. Like you get, and then they'll go through the movements and then they'll do their fighting after that.
You can still do a hand-drawn movement thing, but I'd keep a grid system because the grid system's easy to express. This attack happens when you are behind someone or if you have to face them to defend, stuff like that. It's easier to express the player with grids where their position is versus if it's just kind of loose. The cone on what's like a backstab is hard to express sometimes. I mean, even if in a game like an MMO, sometimes you're like, I was behind him, but the server didn't think you were.
You're at 81 degrees instead of 80.
So with a tactical game like this, if you're going to do all the tactical stuff, like flanking and all that type of stuff, which, I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't. I would keep the grid concept visually just because it's easier for people to understand direction they're facing. Because if it's something like tactics, or better yet, triangle strategy, since that's more recent. The way you face when you end your turn is, determines whether things can backstab you or something like that. You're not always defending, so and you can only face like the cardinal directions. You can't face diagonally. If you had something loose, then like how would that work? So yeah, I would keep that, but you could still draw. I mean, if you look at like Chaos Gate, or I think XCOM does this as well, you can either click at a point and have it automatically draw something, and sometimes they'll walk through shit that you don't want them to walk through, or you can just kind of click around. I think it's Chaos Gate that does it, and like draw the path to basically use the same number of squares. So I imagine with the draw thing, you could just basically just do that to draw the grids that you want to go to. But I would definitely keep the grid conceptually for a tactics game, because why reinvent the wheel? It works. It conveys a lot of information. That's pretty straightforward. But yeah, the draw thing's cool. This is a way to interact and take advantage. Because that's the thing that you showed me, right? That you saw at
Yeah.
Yeah.
That table. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of what I was thinking. That's kind of what inspired it and initially made it be hex-based. Well, part of it was that it's very board game feely on there, but then I was also thinking like it doesn't necessarily need the hex restrictions that board games need, because it can all run real time and you have this kind of like fine-grained control with this little wand. So I was wondering if
No.
I had indicators on the characters for like how far they can move, how far they can see, and like their attack range. It's like something drawn visually as you're selecting them.
Yeah. You might be able to not like always display the grid, but when you contextually display the grid, when the individual player is being moved around or something like that, because then the enemies, you don't have to show that for the enemies at all generally, or maybe just show the grids around the player's characters so that they know that when the enemy's moving, okay, it's moving to that grid right next to me, but the whole thing doesn't have to show a grid, because then you can like show some fine art and stuff like that, instead of having a grid up all the time.
You can do that diegetically, where you can just make the map have hexagons in it. So, for example, there are grass hexagons and some stone hexagons, and they elevate a bit differently, so it's like stairs.
Oh yeah, it could look like what's that little board game? I think HeroScape, because it was all the hexagon clicks.
Yeah, that was one of the things I looked at, because I actually have a couple of those packs that were in here initially that had those shapes, and was thinking about using those, but then I was again going back and forth between like, should it look like a board game or should it look more like a video game? And I didn't know like I guess like I was thinking about it and I just wasn't sure if I really wanted to lock down to tiles or not on that, because like it is kind of cool, but it also like limits my maps to being those just it's got to be tiles. I don't know.
Yeah, I think embracing the board game feel as much as possible contextually fits with what you're trying to do, because it's simulating like the actual human interaction of messing with the game environment and choosing where to move. So I think if you can be inspired or copy a board game as a reference, it seems like it would work. It also helps answer some design questions for you if you have something to just look at and say, hey, I'm just going to do HeroScape, for example, then look at them and see what they did as far as an experience goes, because then you can just grab it and look at it and try to recreate what they've done.
All right. Oh, I'm gonna keep thinking about this and screwing with it. I gotta stop talking about it though, because it's like the one thing that's been stuck on my head for way too long. But I want to figure out what I want to do with that, and if it's gonna be 2 players or 4 players or a battle royale thing, or if I'm gonna make something else next week. I don't really know yet. So let's see.
Just don't do what XCOM has been doing and have a really cool tactics game set up and not offer co-op, because that makes me very angry.
No, I think it's got to be at least 2 players, but I was thinking like maybe 4, at least 4-player battles, and then just making it so that technically could work with whatever. So if it's fun to play more, we could figure that out too. I don't know. I'm having a blast with it though. It's always fun making games for the first
Oh
week.
yeah, Pit People is also a good reference. Yeah.
Oh,
It's always fun to never actually get to the finish line, though, because once you explore the fun, you got it all. You don't want to make the auxiliary systems.
yes, and to minimize those. So far, I've been working on the stuff that I know I want to have in there, like the combat systems, abilities, the systems for dealing with all of that.
Chaos Gate does not have co-op, not that I know of.
Responding
Chaos
to
Gate,
Sun
Chaos Gate or Demon is Demon Gate. I forget. There's Chaos and Demon. I think it's the title, if I remember right. It does not have co-op. If if it does, then I'm angry at myself because I played the heck out of it when it came out, and the whole time I'm like, I really wish I could play this with someone because you get your butt kicked in proper Warhammer style.
I'll have to check out this Pit People game too.
Yeah, Pit People is made by the same dudes who did Castle Crushers. What is their name?
Battle Dog Theater.
Behemoth, I think.
Interesting. I'll grab this thing. I'll grab it after the stream.
Yeah, that's right.
More tabs to be opened.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm low on tabs. I just restarted, so I've only got like 15 tabs right now.
You don't open the tabs you had before? Madness.
No, that would be crazy. I would have like 3,000 tabs open at all times if I did that. Restarting is the only way that tabs disappear.
I have tabs here from 4 GameDev shows ago. Still haven't reached them.
No, I have to kill them all. I can't keep them around. All right, so let's really briefly, I wanted to dive into that Nanite thing too. So it's in the chat, and I also want to open it up to people in chat and see if anybody here has looked at it or has some thoughts about it. But first, I've got to figure out where I left that tab. It's over here somewhere. I'll find it. Give me one second.
Language. Come on now.
Oh, did I use a bad word? Uh-oh. Jason's got a potty mouth. I struggle so hard and try not to, like, I got too many kids, and I don't want them copying me. So I'm like, run around saying all coconuts. So my toddler's not cussing.
Oh, wow. That's new. I'm gonna try that.
From her pirate show. You gotta watch the cartoons. Like, you gotta stay up to date on your tunes. All right, here we go. I'm gonna screen share it real quick. Let's pop it up. And this, I've actually lost track of where I saw it. I saw it yesterday or the day before in some Discord, and it looked really interesting. Again, it's a video, and all I've seen is a video. And like, just to preface it, like, I've seen Microsoft videos of of skateboards getting scanned and popping up in game, and I've never actually seen that happen. So I don't know how much of this is like that versus how much of this is completely real, but it looks really interesting. It looks like somebody's working on an implementation of similar tech to what Nanite's doing. I don't know exactly how similar, but in Unity, some custom rendering stuff. Again, don't know any of the details other than this video looked really cool and got shared a couple days ago, and it's actually a relatively new video. It's from the 3rd, so it's only a 2-day-old video. So I don't know if anybody's really gone through it. How have I not hit like? I just hit like on it. By the way, if you're watching with us, don't forget to hit like now here as well. And I'll drop the link for this video in the chat so everybody can go check it out and see it if you're curious about it and want to see this tech. But I thought it was interesting and hopefully something that maybe ends up as a Unity feature, or like maybe it's a Unity asset pack that then gets bought by Unity if it makes sense and works and actually does deliver on the promise. I have, again, no real idea on where it's going to end up, but I found it super interesting and thought that at the very least should share it, get it out there in front of everybody, and let people go check it out, see if it's cool or not, and let me know too what they think. So I don't know if you guys have seen this. I showed Yorai and Andrew right before the stream. And I don't know, you guys got some thoughts on it, but Slim, have you seen this one? Okay. Did you see the Nanite stuff with Unreal? Or
No.
does that the LODs essentially? It's like this instant, or I don't know if it's instant, but it's like this automatic LOD system where they drop in these giant meshes, check a box, and then it will LOD them without them having to do any work, right? So it just kind of like magically does it. And the demos look really cool. I haven't used it again in like a practical scenario, so I don't know what, if any, limitations there are, and I don't know the differences here, but it seems really freaking cool. So.
Yeah. It gets rid of a lot of work for some people, for sure.
If it works. The video, some of the earlier videos show a lot of popping, LOD popping, which is not ideal. And I do wonder, like, are these LODs pre-computed then? If you're seeing popping, then they're probably either pre-computed, or if they're being done automatically, it's not fast, and that's why we're seeing
popping in this video here.
Maybe I don't know about this one. This one seems like the polished one because they have an Indiegogo now, and probably they want people to sign up. But some of the earlier ones, they're just flying through the scene, and it was clear popping. It was popping left and right. But so the question I guess I would have is it creating these LODs on the fly, or are they pre-computed and it's just choosing which one to use on the fly? And I suppose Nanite, in this view with all the grain and the noise pattern, what is that really showing? Is that just showing all the different faces with different colors, or is it actually showing something in the system?
So strategically speaking, what Nanite and this nanotech seems to try and do is be a hierarchical level of detail system, which in layman's terms means there are triangles being drawn on your screen. We are figuring out which ones are important. We're drawing them smaller, closer to the screen, and bigger, farther to the screen. And that tends to be computed ahead of time and then used at runtime.
Yeah.
So when you see all these triangles, it's telling you this is the size of each triangle. You know it's far away, but it's roughly the same size on your screen. Hence, it's going to take less draw calls the farther away it is. So it seems impressive, and it's trying to promise more than what I know Nanite can, which is really... I'm going to have to wait and try and see how this works, because it's hard for me to believe that the whole team of engineers can't do something that one other one did. For the person asking if this works with dynamic meshes, on the site, the Indiegogo, there's specifically an image that if you hover over, it says everything but the character is done with nanotech enabled. So I assume dynamic skeletal meshes are still no-go, but it claims that it can even do foliage, which is something I don't think Nanite can do, and it's really interesting to think about and somewhat concerning, because it's telling me that it's probably a different tech. It is trying to say that it's all done in one draw call as well, which might mean that it needs like a similar material or something. I don't know, I don't understand, I need to wait and see it.
Here's the Indiegogo. I just dropped it in the chat, so if anybody wants to sign up for the mailing list and check it out whenever it does come out, you'd be able to. So I don't know. It looked interesting. Again, it's probably not something that I'll actually need or use anytime soon, because I'm not working on anything that needs crazy meshes. Like I'm deciding between low poly and ultra low poly. Like,
wait, you're not going to use it for your game? Are you crazy? You're not going to use it for your grid game?
I am definitely not. Let's see. So
for Gordon Marrow, isn't Nanite basically an automatic load system? It is automated for you, but it's still a hierarchical level of detail system. So it's both. It's doing its hierarchy on the screen, and it's automated in the sense that you don't have to make all the loads for you. The engine does that for you.
Yeah, and there's a comment saying that it works with all of the render pipelines, so it's not a new pipeline. I still don't know exactly how it works. I don't understand it, but it'd be really interesting to talk to the guy who made it, find out, learn a little bit more. I'd still probably be way over my head, but it'd be interesting. Oh, the link didn't work. Let me. You know what? It's because I hit copy in the wrong spot. Let me paste it in there. So it happens you right click a link and hit copy, and then you get all the stupid Google crap in there. All right, so let me see. There were a couple other things. Oh, I wanted to do a quick giveaway. I almost forgot about that for the writer code. And then I also I opened up the meetup area for anybody that wants to go hang out in there too. So if people want to go hang out in there, it's open now. You can get in there now and hang out. But if I hop over there near the end of the show, and I've only left it open until 1 o'clock, so it closes in 2 hours. I need to find my code so I can kick off the writer giveaway though. So do you guys have other questions or topics that you want to discuss?
So this week I've been trying to dig into Unreal Engine 5, and I mentioned previously that I care a lot about animation systems, and Unreal Engine 5 seemed like greener pastures than Unity, and I was like, I really wanted to go and see how this runs and what can I do with it, all the potential that it boasts. So I hopped in, I made a project, I messed with the scripts a bit, I set myself up for success, I enabled version control, I got Writer to work with Unreal, I made sure that it runs okay, and I was like, I'm gonna have the best time ever, let's import my FBX and start messing with it. And all hell broke loose.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, so I care a lot about animation systems, and I've described previously there's like 4 major steps in each animation system that you have to get through from wanting to have something to having it running to your wishes. And those 4 steps are importing something, making sure that it exists in your engine, then tagging it with game information, that's the second step. Then having some animation flow, for example, state machines in Unity would be that. And then having on top of that layers of animation. So for example, inverse kinematics, any other scripts that modify the animation once it's been played. So those are the 4 steps. Now, Unity is pretty bad about tagging animations with information. I've ranted about it a lot previously, and also during your mixer, I think it was like my biggest rant that drew the most people to keep listening, so that was kind of funny. In terms of state machines, Unity is kind of okay, and things going on top, it's pretty lacking. The animation rigging system is nice, but it doesn't play well with the lack of the 5 past years where it had no thing for it, so now assets are kind of colliding with it in a way that you have to make sure if your assets that you're trying to use is working with the animation rigging system that's only the fundamentals and isn't actually giving you what the assets are giving you. So kind of a lost battle there. And I thought that the first layer, just importing things in, was pretty acceptable, not groundbreaking. I figured Unreal must have something better. And as soon as I dragged in my FBX, which is the first step, I bumped into the first biggest struggle, which is Unreal works very differently from Unity in terms of how it accepts models. Now, you know how you have a model with parts, say a Cinti model, and that model would have like all the pieces as one game object, and you enable and disable whichever ones you want?
All the submeshes?
Yeah, the submeshes, and if they have blend shapes, then each of them have blend shapes like Andrew's assets that are fantastic, by the way, and everybody should use. But basically, when you have a single FBX and it has multiple submeshes and each one of them has blend shapes, you're meant to be able to control them separately. And you're meant to be able to enable and disable them separately, as we discussed earlier for customization options. But if you drag in a single FBX in Unreal, there is no checkbox that will save you as far as I could find. I really hope that there is one because I didn't find it. No documentation I could look up found it. No forums found it. And also, there is on the import window in Unreal Engine 5, there is a little question mark to go to documentation about this, and the link gets you to not found page. So,
Oh yeah.
It's a release version. I downloaded Unreal just a week ago. So,
Facebook does that when I try to unlock my account. So it tells me to fix my authenticator, just log in and disable my authenticator. Oh yeah, that's nice. And it says if you can't do that, click here, and it goes to a page that says this page doesn't exist anymore. Oh great.
Yeah, you'd assume there's automation systems for these link finders these days, but whatever. So continuing on. So when you do the same FBX drag and drop in Unreal, it converts all your meshes, even though it in the log it says that it loaded them all. It turns them all into a single skeletal mesh. And as far as I could tell, there is no option to enable and disable portions of it. The blend shapes, the morph targets, all get put into a single list. If they have matching keys across different submeshes, they have to be slidden together, which might be a convenience feature if you're trying to match it. But if you're trying to do separate customizations, that's going to be a problem. You have to uniquely name them. Frustrating as hell. Basically, it's really convoluted if you want a character that's modular and made out of pieces. And I was trying to figure out why is it like this. And I figured for the purposes of working together, when you have a large team, you don't want multiple assets to be sitting on the same file, because then people can't co-edit it. So if you're doing customization systems and say you have a bunch of pants and a bunch of shirts for the character, you want people to be able to edit them together, so you don't want a single FBX file to dictate all of that. So they're kind of forcing you into a good workflow for teams where every piece is its own file, therefore nobody is colliding with each other as they're working on stuff. Depending on your views, that might be desirable. On my own specific case, it's frustrating as hell to have to separate 7 different objects and bring them into Unreal just so I can see the character composed together as one out of these pieces that I might want to turn on and off. So I said, stop everything. I'm going to fix this for myself. And I looked up making a Blender plugin that will let me, in one press of a button, save all my assets separately, bring them to Unreal, and force Unreal to load them. And that took a while, and I looked up at 5 other examples that tried to do this. All of them are broken these days for reasons beyond my comprehension. But one of them was good enough that after 2 hours of fixing, I could have Blender use a Python script to save out all the files that you want, then have a JSON script, data file that says, here are all the instructions of the things I saved and the settings I want to import them with. And then it can connect to Unreal with remote access that you can enable in the checkbox in the settings somewhere. And that tells Unreal, hey, take that path and load that Python file and run everything in that Python file, please. And then Unreal does all of the instructions that you gave it in the JSON file. And finally, I have one click of a button that imports everything. And I hate it, and I need to improve it a lot, but it's working. So this was my advent with Unreal, and I can't really say that it was with Unreal, it was mostly with Blender.
So far you've got characters importing or models?
I got models importing in a way I don't like. There's a lot there to unpack, basically. For example, if you have a checkbox for importing morph targets, you have to make sure that it's enabled when you import the morph targets. And if you're doing it by script, then you have to figure out how to make it import those morph targets. If you try to change any setting, you have to make sure that it changes in the scripts that you're writing. So I'm trying to figure out the ideal settings that I don't ever have to change again, because in Unity, I basically solved it all when I have like one button does everything I just described, but in Unity. So it's just a matter of adapting it.
I think it's funny. It's like the difference between programmers and normal people too, though. Like you get the problem, and instead of just solving it, you're like, I want to automate the shit out of this.
Yeah, I mean, if I can tell you how long this takes, we wouldn't be having this conversation because I would have automated it by now. This is something Jason Story said. So,
Well, I like Edward's got a good comment there, by the way. If you're watching and make sure to hit the thumbs up. Also, if you want to enter to win a copy of JetBrains Rider, make sure that you choose a race and a class real quick. We have 13 paladins, 12 wizards, and bards, only 1 warrior. So just pick the race and class you want. I'll start the battle in just a few minutes, and then whoever wins will get a 1-year JetBrains Rider license, which I recommend everybody go try out. Even if you don't win it, go try out the free trial. It's worth it. It'll save you more than the cost and just time and effort. It does for me. I still pay for mine just because I feel like I recommend it so much. I don't want to take the free one because it's something like I pay for, and like I want to keep saying that I pay for because I love it so damn much. So, which is kind of weird and seems counterproductive, but I recommend it enough that I think everybody should use it. So everybody go ahead and enter to win, and in just a second I'll kick that off.
Wait, why is Jason not here?
Story?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, you. Yes, Jason Story.
Assume he's busy doing something or sleeping or resting, or maybe he was playing that V Rising and now he's tired and sleeping.
Yeah,
I
we
would
were
be
supposed to
upset
talk
if he
about
didn't
that.
invite me.
I played
He seems to
Deathloop.
be offline right now, so it's probably not even on the PC.
Oh,
Probably asleep.
yeah. Well, I played Deathloop for us to talk about it finally, and he's not here, so I'm gonna forget everything about Deathloop next week.
That sounds
Write
like
it
a
all
good
down on your Obsidian that he probably had you install these days.
idea.
Oh wait, what was it? I think I did. Yeah, yeah.
All right, let me see if we had any other questions real quick. So if you have a question, feel free to drop it. Oh, somebody asked, Edward asked if the class determines the battle tactics. The class and race determine the stats. There are a couple different stats. There's oh, what are they? I don't even remember. Here, I'll go. We'll pull up the paladin that everybody's choosing. Let me grab a properties window, drag it over. So the paladin, for example, gets plus 10 health and 1 life regen per combat round. So it's essentially per second, but it's per round. So that's what they get. And each race and class gets different stuff, and then your race and class combination stacks up. So you get some different stuff. The file for all that data is normally uploaded, so you can just actually download it, test it out, and check it out yourself. Look at the scriptable objects, but I haven't actually refreshed it, so it's slightly out of date. So I'll put it up there maybe by the next one, though, so you can go check it out and get some cheats in there. Have an advantage. I actually have no idea what's the best. We just go based off of what won last time, and I usually try to nerf whatever wins, so that way maybe something else will win next time. But we'll see. All right.
Why would you nerf the winner every time? At least give a couple weeks to see if the same winner pops up.
Because if I don't nerf the winner, then next time everybody picks the winner, and then that one definitely wins. If I don't nerf,
They see the
Paladin,
meta and they
if
want to be a
Paladin
winner.
wins, yeah, then
Well,
next time.
it's after one time. Not everyone's not choosing after one time.
So, well, I nerf them, especially if it comes down to like the top 4 are all the same.
Oh, okay.
Right? If
Sure,
it's like 4 paladins in the finals, then it nerf them. They don't always nerf them if it's close, but if it's like a very obvious, like this class is super. But now with the race class combos, it's a whole lot harder because like you don't know which one's good. Everybody likes dragon, but I don't know if that's necessarily.
You also reduce the severity of the stats.
Yeah. Forgot about that too. All right, let's kick off the battle in just a second, actually. Got 70 people in there. That seems like plenty. The other thing was I'm going to do a the mug giveaway, and I'm going to do that inside of Gather. So in Gather, we've got, let me see if it's open real quick. Gather, I already had the page where I restarted my computer. There we go, get my words out. And I don't see the event Sunday. Oh, it's because it's already live right now. It started at 10. So let me enter the space real quick. I'll share the screen. Show it. 1 second. Chrome tab. Let me make sure it loads before I share it. Oh yeah. Okay, cool. So there's already some people kind of hanging out in here. So it's set up the Gather instance so everybody can kind of come around, hang out, chat, talk about GameDev stuff. I'll hang out in here for probably like the last half hour of the show, and we'll kind of go through and just talk to people. Lots of interesting conversations, and if you got questions or just want to go show something off or talk to other game developers or something, it's a great opportunity, and we'll give away a mug in there. So I've got a puzzle set up, and the first person to get into that treasure room will end up getting a mug. You can't get in the way that you used to. So it's a new way. So get ready for that in just a little bit. If you want to join that, there's a link down in the description. You can hop in there, just kind of mute it and hang out in here until we jump over there, or you can start talking to people if that's what you want to do. I'm going to stop sharing that screen, jump back over to the giveaway screen, and start that off. So it looks like a couple more people have entered. We got 73 entries. I'm going to wait for one more, and then I'm going to hit the start button and let the battle start. Andrew, there's a question for you on UVs with blend shapes. How do you handle stretching UV parts that are getting blended? So how do you deal with like the materials and the textures if the character grows and shrinks some big amount, or like do you limit that, or
don't grow it that much? One of the technique is literally just to not grow it that much. But we were talking. I was talking with Katie, my animator, right now, recently about potentially, and this is not something we have on the roadmap right now, but potentially redoing the human from the ground up with, the idea of being able to do more morphing, so that a regular nose can turn into a goblin nose, right? But in order to do that, you've got to have a more dense mesh, as far as we can tell, so that the stretching is a little less apparent. But also, potentially, you could do other things like changing the texture as well. You can build a shader, I suppose. So if you know that there's something that will stretch, you could change the texture, or morph the texture and blend between two textures too. I think I haven't tested that, but I think that would work too.
It's possible, though there is nothing built in for that, and the
Yeah.
information is literally just vertex positions, so there's literally nothing helping you there. Also, making custom shader for this is a hell task. I really don't recommend that. The better trick is to just not have details there that can be stretched.
That ultimately it's easier if it doesn't matter. But I would also just suggest not having them stretch that much that becomes an issue. For characters, unless you're going really close up, it probably isn't an issue. Even if it stretches, people might not even notice, depending on the how close they are to the camera. And the silhouette is the more important thing in that regard. Like if you've got some shoulder armor where the thing comes up really high, it's going to stretch. That metal bit's going to stretch. But really, unless you're really close to it, you're not going to see that stretching. And the more important thing is that you now have this giant thing next to you, next to the player's head or something.
There's
Been
also
eliminated, Andrew.
Oh, good.
there's also another thing about what you just mentioned, which is depending on your shader, it might obfuscate the lack of details or the stretching.
Yeah.
So, for example, if your shader does Fresnel effects, then all the edges that you're seeing relatively to your camera are going to be Fresneled and just lerped to some color, and you don't have any problem with the visibility. Then again, though, your assets are PBR, so
They don't have to be. You can easily turn off that and change it textures around. But yeah.
Or you can use the trick of using the materials that change into rainbow gradients that I keep forgetting the name of. The pearl-like colors. I don't remember their name now. Basically, materials that use Fresnel with a texture gradient that shifts to like rainbow colors, so they look like they have like this sheen effect to them. And you focus on that, and it keeps changing with your view, so you can't really focus on the actual mesh details.
Yeah.
So there was a question about Discord. I'm gonna just drop a link in chat. There is a Discord. It's not super public, but I do share the link when people ask. So there it is. You can hop in and join if you were interested in that. And there's a question up here that I wanted to ask Salim. If you're up for it, Salim. If you were given unlimited resources, knowledge, and capabilities, what game would you make?
I mean, ultimately, it's probably easy to answer for me because I've talked about it so much. And I was actually playing this game yesterday. I got my Mister in yesterday and was messing around with a bunch of old games, and I ended up playing this for a couple hours. But I would probably make a game similar to Guardian Legend, since Guardian Legend is basically Zelda, Metroid, and a shoot 'em up put into a game, and is highly enjoyable still. Whether that would be like a 3D game or some stylized 2D type game, I don't know, but I'd probably make something like that, try to make it pretty big. Ultimately, just like that experience is fun just because it's 3 games in one. And I always enjoy this type of stuff. I don't know if anyone ever played Golgo 13 on the NES, but it's also a game that has like first-person shooter stuff and like first-person dungeon explorer and then side-scrolling and then like swimming and like it's all kinds of goofy stuff, and it's always fun when a game actually is able to put all the experiences together and make it feel different. as far as going through it. So, so yeah, I probably do something like that. I don't know if it'd be a you know, a multiplayer game or not. It would definitely be something that involves some sort of co-op if I can pull it off and it makes sense, because the beauty of things like couch co-op and stuff seem like people don't care about that much anymore. Although a lot of indies seem to appreciate it, thank God. But people seem to not like. I don't think people want to play together, especially in the same house. And having a house of 4 at one point, it's always fun to be able to just grab a controller or 2 controllers and sit on a couch and play together. So definitely be something like that if I could pull it off. But yeah, I think the game that I tend to want to recreate or make something like the most is Guardian Legend, surprisingly, because it's not even on my list of top 10 favorite games. It's just a really fun experience, and it's just like a kind of an unsung good game from back then.
Very nice.
I agree. It was one of
I
my
love
favorite games.
I love hearing when people have like a concrete idea of what they actually want to make, given all the resources in the world. I find that my mind tends to wander way more, and it's just focusing on that one concrete, vague statement of immediate, eternal fulfillment. If given infinites, just make the other infinites. Also, regarding the material, I forgot the name of. Appimant made the right name. It's the iridescent type of materials, which is actually really simple to recreate. I was like literally baffled when I saw it the first time in my life. Like, how do people make this? Isn't this supposed to be like incredibly complex physically to recreate? I figured it out after like 5 years. Of course, I didn't actually actively research it, but I stumbled across it one day, and I'm like, I've been lied to my entire life. This has been like 2 nodes in ShaderGov. For those who want to know, it's just literally Fresnel with a gradient of rainbow colors. Straight up.
Seems like everybody in chat's got lots of game ideas too. What about you, Yorai and Andrew? You guys have, I mean, I kind of have an idea of what Andrew would build because he's loosely doing it, but would it change if you had unlimited budget and unlimited knowledge and resources? Would it be something slightly different, or
so I don't think it would be vastly different in theme or feeling or whatnot. The difference would be that I'd have other people working on it with me. I'd hire people to do the stuff that I'd probably end up just producing it basically, and hiring people to do all the stuff that I'm learning how to do or just not the best at. And but it would probably be a much more high-end experience. It's essentially the game I'm making still, but it would just be a faster made, higher end experience with more robustness. And as somebody else said, it would also be work on mobile, so there would be a mobile version also being made at the same time as the desktop version, so that when it's released you can play on both and you can save and load your game from both, so that you can do that. Yeah.
All right, there's a question for Salim, but first there was a big super chat that I wanted to just pop
yeah.
up and say thanks. It says, love you guys, been watching for a while. I was wondering, I have a dream of creating a medieval dark fantasy open world game one day. What career path do you guys recommend for making my dream a reality? And do you think college, I assume there's more to it, is...
I think college is the best way to go for that career.
Oh yeah, it didn't pop up on the screen. Sorry, I can see it there. So yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, let's dive into this one real quick.
Banking, right? It's a little facetious, but not really. Banking or tech. Get into something. If I'm assuming you're young because you're talking about college, definitely go to college. But get into a career that will make you some decent cash right away, so that you can retire and focus on this. Otherwise, the answers that everybody else will have is probably more on point with the actual industry.
That's because that's Andrew's plan. Andrew's like, money and then build it myself for fun.
Yeah. To be fair, making games is a very big task depending on the scale of the game. Making open world specifically is very complex compared to making, like, I don't know, a single linear level. The more assets that you have to make, the more disciplines that you have to know, because there's not only making the assets themselves, there's how you manage them regarding the game, regarding the memory, regarding literally every system. They scale the needs that your game will have up. So getting the most funds so that you can have the most personnel that actually understand what they're doing to work on the product the way you want it to work is going to be costly. Even if you have the best skill in the world and you can just make all of the assets yourself alone, that's going to take you time. You can only do so much as a single human. So hiring people will be a necessity, and you will need funds for that. How you get those funds is beyond me. Everybody who got money ever will give you different stories. If somebody won the lottery and you ask them how to get money, they'll tell you to buy a lottery ticket, as Jason's story said like 5 times at this point. So be very careful about that. In terms of disciplines and regarding college, college has value. I'm not sure that this value carries as much weight in the industry these days, because there is a lot of material for self-teaching if you are actually serious about it. I'd say even before you start college, try to get into the industry and see what you're actually getting, because if a college is only going to give you a starting uh, introduction to Unity, and you can get that in 2 weeks by yourself and make something with a lot of effort and self-study, then you might not need it. If you find that it is helpful and you're having struggles, maybe it would help, depending on where you go.
I would say I had a lot in my brain and it just kind of went away. I don't think you have to go to college. I think that there are multiple examples of people who have made games by themselves that are great. Tunic, Stardew Valley. They are passion projects. I'm not sure how old those people are, or how long it took them to make it. But Tunic for sure is just a great game. Not like super duper long, but it's definitely an example of execution on a desire, and now developer can just grow from there. Um, but I definitely think I value experiences a whole bunch. I did not go to college for this. I fell into it, and I love playing video games, and that is what fueled my passion. Um, but I mean, really, just to your guys' point, like you just maybe get in the industry and seeing what's there. Maybe going to college is your thing. You just have to figure out what's best for you. And when you say you just want to create a medieval dark fantasy open world game, that is a very broad thing to say. I mean, you're just saying the theme and type of game. I would refine that a little bit more, because that will definitely help you identify what skills you might need to learn, or what you might need to focus on, as far as like getting the foundation for that started. Um, but yeah, I mean, it really just depends on you, the individual, your situation. You seem to have a goal in mind, so you got to just get the get the ammo for it, and just load your bow and just take aim and see if you can hit that bullseye. But there's going to be a lot of misses along the way, so you just got to be prepared for that. I mean, reach for it. Hell, watch this stuff. Use the internet. It's infinite amounts of knowledge there, and just go to it. Maybe college is it, maybe not. I would definitely get in industry though. That's my like, find anything. QA, customer service, it doesn't matter. Get into a studio somewhere, meet people, and they can definitely help you along this path. Build that network, find someone to hire, or wants to build in the project on the side with you, and then see what happens from there.
Yeah, I think getting into the industry is like the number one thing. If you're not already there and you're not like working with other developers, it make a huge difference in actually being able to build and finish something. I mean, if you can build stuff on your own, there are some cases like the guy that built Unturned. I think he was like 16 when he started making that thing and released it. A couple years later. I've lost track, but I think there are a couple stories like that. But if you've got like the time, energy, effort, and kind of the skill set there, and some connections to get you past things, you can start working on it and on your own. But I generally recommend that people get a industry job first, kind of work with some other developers, because they're going to learn a lot, unless they just have like unlimited like I can live at home for free for the next 5 years
Yeah.
completely, and like
If you have
just
understanding
focus on
parents,
learning and building my own stuff, then like you got to focus heavily on it though, just like
yeah.
heavily drill down on getting things done and making progress on whatever it is that you're trying to build. I switched out my sign. I have my little progress sign. I still love this one. It's just like
What is happening here? What
my
is it?
little progress not perfection sign to just remind me to
Oh
do
God.
shit and get stuff done, and like push it forward instead of trying to wait until it's perfect, or wait until the scenario is exactly right, or wait until you've gone and learned this thing at some school or something. So yeah, I would say get in, start at some company right away. And oh man, let me see if I can get you a link. Send me an email later on. I want to send you a link to this video that Rick did on getting a job in the industry. I think it would be really helpful and useful, and I'll send that over to you. All right, let's take the question that you wanted to hit, Salim. I've lost it. It was the
Was just opinion Ferdinand had on why people aren't doing couch co-op, uh, which ultimately I think the reasoning, while I understand it, is bad reasoning because video games are about people playing together and families and stuff. So um, if that is a reason people are not caring about it, it's weird. I mean, you have a series like Halo that for 4 games had local co-op. I mean, it went from 4 down to 2, and then they just decide randomly that, hey, if you want to play co-op with someone, you have to have another Xbox in your house, um, which I think is silly. There's obviously technical reasons for it, and I think that is more the reason for it. I don't know. I mean, obviously every game is different when it comes to couch co-op, but I think it is a lost art, especially if you have like an established pedigree of having it, and that's kind of been a selling point for your product. It just seems weird. Then you look at games like Children of Morta. I mean, they start off with couch co-op. I mean, they actually like their system is really just about people playing together, and they 100% bought into couch co-op, and to the point where there was a point people were like, "Hey, I really want to play this. Um, I really want to play this online with friends." And it took them, I think, a couple years. They had to get to Steam first before they released their online co-op. But it didn't take away from the game at all. If it had been the reverse, I don't know if I would have played as much as I did, because I just ended up picking up my wife and we played the hell out of it. Then it went to Steam and we started playing it even more. And then co-op came out and we're like, oh wait, we gotta play again. So yeah, I think that couch co-op is just a lost art, and it really really is sad because I mean the industry in general, you can only afford one Nintendo in your house. You can only afford you only had one television, um, and that's multi or co-op games just came out of that. And I think it feels weird to like play like a beat 'em up like a Streets of Rage or something like that, and you're just playing with someone who's not right next to you. Like you can't enjoy that experience together, um, or laugh or giggle when someone actually hits someone else or something like that. It just feels odd, and I do appreciate that there are definitely people in the industry who understand how good an experience it is, and I think it is kind of making a comeback. I think there's been more focus on couch co-op and some just random indie games that I've seen recently than I have seen in the past couple of years. So I hope it does make a comeback.
Well, it looks like at least one of the viewers has implemented it in their game, Pair of Aces. I
Good
figure
on
we can
you.
definitely
Good on
pop
you.
that up.
I
Got to
will.
plug it for sure.
I will have to check it out for sure.
And then I wanted to say congrats to Michael for winning. Just send me an email. There we go. That was a terrible explosion. Do we have a good explosion? There we go. Man. No, I can't get a good explosion in here. There, I try to add them in there for Michael Bay. So congrats. Send me an email. I will send you over your writer code. It's a 1-year license. Best code editor that I've used, and I highly recommend that everybody go try it out and check it out. And thanks to JetBrains for giving us those codes to give away, by the way. It's freaking awesome.
And he's gone. I would like to say that I do love Rider because it's starting to work with more and more things. So, yeah, big fan. I do recommend everybody try it out if you can.
I closed the wrong window there. Good stuff. Oh, somebody mentioning Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, and Apple TVs are prime environments for that. I wonder if that's like a good target place, because I see games on there occasionally, and I wonder, like, is it the same 10 games and everybody's seeing those games and people are buying them, or is it just like a bunch of games? I have no idea what those ecosystems are like. I'm kind of curious, because every now and then my kids will go buy like $1 game on the Fire Stick on whatever. I don't care. But I wonder if that's like a common thing. Does that like happen a lot, or is it still like just some tiny little thing that is flooded and dead? I'm really kind of curious about that. I don't know. I'm hoping the Tilt 5 marketplace is pretty good too. I think that it might be if they end up selling well, but I think it was really neat. So if it's as fun as it was at the event, it should be cool.
Jason, I shared a new asset that has an adaptive split screen. That's what's called, adaptive split screen, for these casual couch games. Really unique way of doing splitting the screen. The video shows it better than that static image, but it appears that as you move around, as the players move around, your position on the screen will change, and it kind of just magically handles the blending of it all.
That's cool.
Ooh, neat.
Yeah, that's a technology that I've yet to wrap my head around. I did read about it once, and I think I understood it once upon a time, and then I immediately forgot about it. But
Yeah,
it's pretty fun to try and figure out camera sync this way.
This type of stuff, like we actually were just playing Toe Earl yesterday, and it does this type of stuff back in Genesis days.
Just kind of bending though. The
bending is really cool here. I like how it's kind of fracturing the image.
It's doing 4-player splits there.
Yeah,
that's
the fact it's not a static shape is that's really cool. But I want to say Parabases looks cool. Was it Mr. Cuddy? I will have to check it out.
Interesting. Yeah, I have to check this thing out too. I'm gonna add it to my cart. I gotta be logged in, so I'm on the wrong tab. That thing looks really neat. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it though. So I gotta figure out. Now you're gonna make me start building another game, Andrew.
That's for your
game. Your tabletop game is that's it. That's how you do the.
That's how you do the big battle.
Yeah, the
split
flash
view in VR.
Not in VR. This is how you do the non-VR version. Something like that. Yeah.
It'd be hilarious. I think it's neat though. That looks really cool. I want to play with that some and make something with it. I don't know what yet, but it makes me want to make something. All right, I wanted to, let me see, share this other screen real quick. We're just at about 11:30, so let's see, Chrome tab, adapt, nope, not that one, this is the one. So in just a few minutes, I'm gonna hop over to the gather window and just jump over there and go chat with everybody. So if you wanna hop in and do a little bit of voice chat, come around, you can hop in, I'll pop my camera on there. So you walk up and you just see people, talk to them, jump into the conversations. Let me mute this tab so it doesn't start playing over everything. We can have conversations and talk about whatever random things. Maybe come talk a little bit about the split screen game and the split screen game technology too. Kind of curious, like how you did your local co-op too. Is it split or is it something else? But if anybody's interested, it's opened up and we'll do a giveaway at noon. So right at noon, I'm going to do a little giveaway, and the first person to get into the treasure chest will win a free mug. So free GameDev show mug, just as a little prize and a little bit of fun. So all you have to do is figure out how to get in there. I'll announce that and release that at noon though, once we get started with it. I'll shrink that down for just a minute and
wait,
see.
That's my treasure room. Why you
It is your treasure room.
It's also
Now
your
everybody's
mug
got
you've
to find
given
the way
away.
in.
Dad.
You have to give up your mug that he sent you.
Oh, that's fine. Another one. You can have that.
Okay.
There you go. I like that. That was good. That was perfect time.
I know you actually showed it at the beginning yesterday. Oh, Andrew's
Dual wielding.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah, I'm following you.
So yeah, the link to join in there is just down in the description of the video. So you should be able to hop right in and join.
Yes. Noon PST. You should say that.
Oh yeah, that's
In
correct.
30
Sorry, in 30 minutes. I'll say it that way. So that way, you don't have no time zones because I get them all mixed up. So in about 30 minutes, we'll do the giveaway. I'm gonna hop over to there in probably about 5 minutes. Oh, I see Andrew in there already, waving, saying hi. So the other thing, and if anybody's in chat, real quick, paying attention and wants to do a like lightning talk, maybe not this week, maybe next week, or maybe even this week, you got something prepared where you want to just do a quick 10-minute presentation, let me know. I want to find a couple people who have something like interesting they want to share or talk about or show. If it's some new bit of tech, something that they found, or maybe like a little talk that they're kind of working out and preparing for a conference or a user group or something, just reach out to me, send me an email, just jason@game.courses, and get you access so that you can do like a little broadcast and do a little mini presentation here. Something super low stress. Something goes wrong, doesn't matter. It won't be recorded, it'll be fine, and be able to kind of talk and get feedback from people. So if you got something you're trying to work out, or you just have something interesting to share, just let me know, and we can definitely make that happen. If you look over here, I'll run over to the area. There's the seating areas where you can kind of hang out and chat, and then watch somebody present. So just set you up so that I can do a little presentation up there on whatever the thing is that you want to talk about, share, or show off. I think that was all I had on that.
Good way to practice some public speaking a little bit too.
Oh yeah, it's a great way for that because you can only see the people's faces that let you see them. So it's like mostly just like you're talking into a void, which is a lot easier than talking into 100 faces that are staring at you, right? And the people that aren't like super engaged, like you can't tell. It's fine. It makes it a nice and I think relaxing, easy way to kind of talk and share, even easier than on YouTube. So.
Saying that's easier than on YouTube, when you're left alone with the camera, it's the absolute peak of hell, trying to figure out how you actually seem engaged and not reading off a teleprompter while you have a gun pointed at your head.
Oh.
The first experience I had with trying to record a video didn't end well. Not happening again.
Oh, damn.
I'd say you just do it live.
That's cool. You may inspire me to do some. I don't know what it would be, but yeah.
You know a lot. You can surely talk about bullet trees, if nothing else.
Outside is the bad stuff. I'm telling you, number one enemy is bullet trees. It's perfect. We just need to come with some more.
All right. Well, I think I'm almost out of things to talk about. Do you guys have any other topics you want to bring up before we jump over and just say hi to everybody and start giving away a mug?
Well, go ahead, Andrew.
I was just gonna say at noon I'm gonna be streaming. So if you're done with hanging out with other people and you just want to watch me stream and make a game or work on my game, not make it completely, work on it, then I'll be streaming at noon.
We'll start the giveaway 10 minutes before noon. Then we'll do it at 11:50, so that way everybody can still jump over and join you without worrying about trying to win a mug at the same time. So let's get the link for that.
Yeah, and I'll be streaming for a while too. So, casually come over when you want.
You can hop over and watch. There's even a Magic Pig Games booth over here.
I know. Look at that.
So we can get over to it.
I don't know how to use the booth though.
Find the booth. Oh, it's like this. So you go over to it and then you stand here. That's pretty much it. It doesn't actually do anything. You can make the things interactive. Like this little poster goes to, oh, that's the wrong poster. It goes to Out Stanley. It should go to Magic Pig Games, but it doesn't. And then the other link doesn't work either. So there's supposed to be links here that go to your assets. They're broken. I'll have to fix that.
Yeah, see, at least you have a thing. I just have a treasure room that you gave away.
I turned it into a prize room. So now there's a prize if you can get in there into the treasure room with Salim. Salim's not the prize. And then there's little poker tables and Tetris tables and stuff. Oh, and then there's the mazes. The mazes to the other treasures, if you can figure out your way through there. But they teleport you all over, so there's a couple of them. There's
Amazing.
nothing really exciting in there though, because all the treasures have been claimed. But for everybody that's not paying attention, they're not going to know that, and they're going to keep running around trying to get them. Cool. Well, I've shared Andrew's video is in chat. We're going to drop it down below. Oh, wait, which networking video, Yorai?
The one where you had from this very conference that you're looking at. That you uploaded recently. The talk about ML API or network for game objects.
Yeah, sorry. Now I know what you're talking. I totally spaced. I forgot to release that yesterday. Yeah, let me pop that up. Thank you for reminding me. My memory is fading in my old age.
It's going into that wizard beard of yours.
Yeah, and I'm about to shave it all
I
off.
got rid of mine. Yeah.
Let it disappear here. So let me quickly switch my screen share for 1 second.
Wait, why are you shaving it?
I don't know.
Oh, gotcha.
I need to record some more videos. So I figured I'll shave and look weird.
Hmm.
That was this video right here. So on netcode for game objects. It was actually one of the conference sessions. The 3 Unity sessions are all going to be released publicly, and it's just a full video on what's going on with netcode for game objects and kind of how to get started with it. Give everybody kind of an update on where it is and like what the status is. So if you've been wondering about it, like thinking about which one to use, definitely check it out and kind of watch. It's literally the networking team explaining how things are going, where they're at, and what they recommend and what they don't recommend, and how to get started with the process or with their whole system. So it's an interesting one. It's also a very unpopular video, which is terrible. Like, I find that like the videos that are popular are never the ones that I think are going to be popular. Everybody wanted to know about netcode for game objects, and it ends up being like number 9 out of 10 in the videos. So it's always
It is what it
confusing.
is, but it is useful information-wise.
I feel like anything that's like dense and packed with info too ends up being less popular, probably just because it's harder to consume and harder to kind of deal with.
I think if you were wearing like a party hat or something, like jingled or something, it would make it more popular. Like just, a happy birthday hat or like Mickey Mouse ears, something like
I can do that.
Or just like a shirt that said, "I love Salim, he's really cool." I think everyone will watch that one.
I normally wear my I Love Salim shirt, so.
Are we going to talk about how I'm stuck between 2 Jasons right now? And
Oh,
they're the
wow.
same one.
Isn't that like a normal being
like a
between
mirror
2
world.
Jasons?
Yeah, exactly. There's too many Jasons here. I also have a Jason coworker, and there's also a Jason I'm commissioning. So Jasons everywhere.
You should
More.
all change your name.
The left one is cooler because he looks like he's about to cast a spell.
Yeah, it's very intense.
Yeah.
That's probably just me telling everybody to hit the thumbs up button.
Oh,
And
that's
like
the wrong thing.
That's
Wrong
usually
there.
like the most animated part of the video. Okay, don't forget to hit all the buttons, which, by the way, if you're still with us, don't forget to hit all the buttons. All right, well, I think I'm going to jump over to Gather, go say hi to a few people, and then kick off this mug giveaway. So if you want to win a mug, come join us. I dropped the link in chat. It's also in the description below. You don't have to necessarily turn on your camera and talk. You can just come stalk and hang out if you want and try to win stuff. But I recommend that you just jump in, say hi to people, even if it's just as little as like, hey, hi, and waving and nothing else. Like, get used to talking to people, get familiar with it, and start making some friends and contacts. It's a good way to grow your industry, I don't know,
Network.
network. You start to actually talk to some other developers. Everybody in there is going to be pretty much the same as you, so it'd be a pretty chill environment. With that said, like, subscribe. Don't forget to check out Andrew's stream. I'll talk about that in the Gather conference as well too. And don't forget to check out all the courses and other stuff linked down below as well if you're interested in any of that. All right, I'm going to shut up now, hit the button, and wait, any last words?
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See ya.
Good talk.
Say goodbye.